Hi, this is Naroki5. I am going to be doing this until I die or I find something better to do. So please help me achieve this personal and, I think, noble objective by contributing to my Patreon or Subscribe Star. Link is down below. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Red Pill Nation Hangout number 316. Going to be an interesting show tonight. There's a few topics on here that I think might make for an interesting show. I am your brave and fearless host, Naroki5. With me tonight is my usual partner in crime and secretly trying to make dogmen in the basement of his apartment building, Rearson.
We're talking about the North American legend of the Dogman?
Yes, we are.
I've actually heard a story of someone who actually seemed to have found them, and he was rightfully scared shitless, so I'm not going to go there. I mean, you can if you want, but I'm not going to go there. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I've known this guy for over half my life now. I can't believe you're the longest friend I've had, period.
And I don't know whether that should be a good thing or a bad thing. We'll see.
Well, their friendship hasn't been ruined yet, and I hope it doesn't. So I'd say it's good. So anyway, all right. I'm going to leave it at that. Back to you.
All right. And also with me tonight, coming from the Dead People's, South Korea, Captain Sinclair.
Actually, this is just the captain's account. He's generously allowed me to make use of this go round. Yeah, Chief Communications Officer of the Robin Hood flagship to the wider WPRPN.com, People's Pirate Network. Good to be here. Let's set this one on fire tonight.
We are going to do that. We are going to do that. For those of you who don't know, I am at Patreon as Naroki5. I am as Subscribe Stars to Red Pill Nation, BitChute Odyssey, Rumble, MGTOW TV, Bradion, Facebook, YouTube. Not Facebook. Minds, Gab, MeWe, Getter. I'm thinking about maybe doing an experimental live stream on Kick and seeing how that goes. To be determined at this point. This week in the internet, and I'm going to, because apparently both of these individuals actually, which kind of made suggest that I'm on the radar. I specifically had two different trolls that act on my Instagram account that actually made an effort to kind of track me down. And they quoted, and before they deleted it, they quoted stuff that I had been saying on some of my shows, and then proceeded to try and insult me on a couple of my Instagram posts. So I'm gonna respond here on the off chance that they're listening. Because oddly enough, topic number one ties into this. Yes, the Bill of Rights and the Charter of Rights still exist, and as you clearly saw before you deleted it, I posted up Article 1, Section 1 of the Canadian Bill of Rights to show you how wrong you are. And yeah, you are in the wrong. There is freedom of religion. There is freedom of expression. That stops, though, when you make direct calls to action, like saying that there is no Bill of Rights, is just patently false. And the second individual, or maybe it was the same individual, if you're going to accuse me of being a conspiracy theorist and stupid and gullible, don't do it over the symbol of the Trudeau Foundation when I can simply post up links to the FBI database that clearly shows the pedo symbol and the symbol of the Trudeau Foundation being the exact same thing. I'm going to take your silence on that as proof. If you want to come at me, like have your ducks in a row. And yeah, I don't go off on really long-winded tangents about stuff unless there's some actual evidence to back it up. There's some people that are willing to go there. Like, for instance, I'm still not completely sold that 5G is the grand conspiracy that it actually is, although there is some very suspicious and interesting evidence. A lot of the stuff about COVID has proven to be true, though. So yeah, I don't get into. I mean, we speculate on the show, but we don't go off on these really far out speculations. I generally tend to keep it close to home because because idiots like you will try and post stuff like this that make it really easy for me to debunk you when you do. So, in with that being said, let's get into the actual topics tonight. And I think the first one really kind of makes my point for me. Topic number one: questioning Kamloops residential school incident to be made illegal with a question mark. Topic number two: new Disney movie release, Elemental Tanks. Early returns for the Flash not looking good either. I've done some number crunching on those. Oh wow. Yeah, it is not looking good for either of those two, especially for Elemental. Not quite as bad for Flash. Topic number three: Peter Hotez gets called up for his vaccination stand and plays the victim card afterwards. Oh yeah, if you were on Twitter, you had to deal with a lot of Peter Hotez over the past week or so. Topic number four: Andrew Tate finally charged. Topic number five: NHL banning cause-based jerseys next season. And the last one is really an interesting one. We're going to really get off on some speculation on this one. Was the Wagner group revolt in Russia a deep fake or a psyop? So yeah, very interesting topic, and there's a bunch of stuff that kind of gets into all of them. And let's start out with topic number one. Now, this is it's very, very obvious, and this is being done with the full approval of the new Democrat Party in Canada, that what Trudeau is trying to do is he's trying to get the alt media and external reporting to Canada about what's going on in the outside world either reduced or eliminated entirely. Among the things that he's been facing, and I mean this, of the major Western powers right now, I don't think I'm going too far out on a limb here and saying that Trudeau is the absolute worst. This kind of reeks of desperation. But one of the things that they literally have suggested here is that the questioning of the Kamloops residential school incident to be made illegal. Okay, well, I didn't really get into, I haven't done a deep dive into this, which probably I think maybe I should have, especially since some of my own relatives were in these schools. Here's the situation with me, and if any leftist or native persons comes in here and starts screaming at me because I don't toe the line on this issue. Well, actually, no, we're not on YouTube anymore. Yeah, you can just fucking bite me. All right? Just because I'm native doesn't mean I have to take the official leftist woke line on this. With my immediate family, and this is something that I found out when I started talking to my family members, the people in my family voluntarily sent their kids to a residential school for the winter for education, and then they were allowed to come back to the farm and work on the farm for the summer. And this was done voluntarily, as in they didn't send somebody out. And keep in mind, I'm Métis, so I mean, it wasn't such a big issue with the Métis kids as opposed to the Native American kids. But I mean, I will point out that Métis kids that were living on reservations were subject to this apparent forced indoctrination, which is kind of funny because that's exactly what they're doing right now with trans. Think about it, right? It's a kind of indoctrination, except of a different, of a religious type as opposed to a woke type. Yeah, that's the story with my family. Now, the other part that kind of, I mean, I don't dismiss the possibility that, I mean, I have to ask myself, would the Canadian government, especially since we're also probably talking about Project Tuskegee, here, we all know that what Project Tuskegee did to the African American population down after World War II. Now, would the Canadian government have engaged in such a thing as well? Yeah, they probably would have. The way it worked, and this comes from, I did a little bit of binging on Nazi hunting and Nuremberg and whatever at one point when I was working on my old job. The way it worked is that the Nazis in Germany, when they were occupying spots in Eastern Europe, they used to just send kill squads all over the place and put people in vans and whatever. And they had this conference, and they decided that they needed to if they were going to engage something like this, they needed to put people into concentrated areas and do it there as opposed to spreading it all around. Hence the term, hold on a second, concentration camps, right? Because they were concentrating the resources and concentrating the atrocities in specific areas. And that would have also been the model that they would have been using, albeit on a much smaller and much more clandestine scale in North America if they were using it. So did something happen at Kamloops? Maybe. Here's the thing. Trudeau knew about what was going on in Kamloops several years before it actually happened. They have still, and I mean, as much as I disagree with Lauren Southern, I gotta give her kudos here. They have still not done any kind of autopsy on any of the bodies that are in that graveyard next to the school. The fact that there is a graveyard next to the school is also not indicative of killing people, although it does make it easier to get rid of bodies. The largest graveyard in British Columbia, at the very south end of that graveyard is a high school, but it is called John Oliver High School. And I can tell you that they have not been carting off bodies from that school and burying them in the graveyard across the street. So correlation does not equal causation. Now, and this ties in with some of the bills that Trudeau is passing. The next one up is going to be called the Online Safety Bill, and then there's going to be another one coming up after that called the Hate Speech Bill. We're going to avoid references to Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler when we talk about this stuff. This is all designed to muzzle the opposition before Trudeau calls the next election. And by the way, he is doing this with the full and willing cooperation of Jagmeet Singh, because I got to keep saying this to people who don't know what's going on in Canada right now. It is a minority government. Trudeau cannot do anything without getting the approval of the New Democrat Party. Like, he can't do anything. He can't pass anything without the approval of the New Democrat Party at the moment. Yeah, and the New Democrat Party was the party that I used to vote up until a few years ago. The New Democrats were the party that I traditionally voted for. So the rule, and this will probably come out when he gets to the last section, which is to make hate speech illegal, which will of course include the fact that questioning anything about the Kamloops residential school or saying anything that runs contrary to what the Kamloops residential school official line is will be labeled hate speech, subject to jail time, a fine, and or jail time, at least on the books. Now, it hasn't been made law yet, given the current trajectory that the Trudeau administration is on. This probably will end up being the case. Assuming, of course, that and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this at some point. At some point, Jagmeet Singh is going to be facing an outright rebellion, and I mean, even leftists, right, are going to get sick of some of this. And when we get to topic number 5, you'll see this in spades. Jagmeet Singh might not be the New Democrat leader for long, right? Even with, and we'll be talking about this in 317 with this new bill that got passed by Trudeau, which is limiting the amount of news now that Facebook is allowing on its feed into Canada. And I have also noticed a distinct change in what YouTube is showing as well. But yeah, open questioning of the Kamloops residential school incident is potentially, it's going to look like even like questioning the narrative, like even potentially asking the question, like, are you going to do an autopsy on the bodies, is being open. It might be declared hate speech at some point. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jaffe.
Where would you like me to jump in exactly? I mean, you covered a lot of issues, of course.
Well,
so
the topic is the Kamloops questioning the Kamloops residential school narrative to be made illegal. I tapped in some of that other stuff because it was related.
The whole thing is clearly it's absurd. It's troubling. It's dangerous. And, Trudeau needs to be removed, taken out through whatever means necessary. And by that, I mean taken out of office. He's, I don't know if you call him a Manchurian candidate type personality necessarily, but he's clearly a World Economic Forum asset and a globalist treason and traitor to the nation. We could be doing a lot better with somebody else at the helm, whether, I guess, who are the other choices? Pierre Poilievre is how you pronounce his last name. Or, of course, there's Maxime Bernier of PPC. Really what we need is electoral reform. And that comes in the way and through the means of proportional representation. I don't know if I brought this up in the past or not, but, right now we're being hamstrung greatly. And this is a real disservice to a flourishing, healthy, vibrant democracy. Because so much under the current first person past the post single member plurality system, so many votes are completely ignored and disregarded to the point where they're often it's the majority. In fact, truth be told, a lot of people either aren't aware of this or just don't seem to care for whatever reason. And yes, apathy is a major problem. I used to be, I'm still apathetic to a certain extent, but at least I'm engaged at a certain level doing something. And I'll get to the Kamloops thing here momentarily, but historically, the term idiot, actually, it had a sort of a civic community kind of political context, and that was somebody who either refused to be part of or was not engaged in the public realm, the public sphere, that they stayed away from and cared not to have any business with public matters whatsoever, even though all of these issues, proclamations, policies, and so forth, statutes, they impact our lives each and every day at a whole multitude of levels, regardless of how much cognitive dissonance, willful ignorance people, choose to, would prefer to engage in. So as far as Kamloops is concerned, I can't believe it. It seems utterly ridiculous and absurd, but this is Castro, of course. So, he's desperate, and he's going to these extreme measures, including censorship of the internet with the hijacking. I mean, this is the furthest thing from net neutrality. One of the furthest things from net neutrality I could possibly imagine or envision. He is the antithesis of net neutrality. He and people like him, people in Silicon Valley, the YouTube overseers, and Google, of course. Facebook is pretty awful, although YouTube, frankly, is the worst. Thank God for Twitter. A little bit of restoration on that front, although they probably could be doing better. But yes, the hijacking of the algorithms, this SEO business, search engine optimization, and how it's not a level playing field. And that's what net neutrality would consist of: total laissez-faire, no non-interference. Let it hands off, Justin. Just let it act out on its own and see where things go. But that's what he's afraid of, because he does not want information to freely be shared and for people to network. So similar to the way, so much it's it's social networking, and information sharing. They go to such great lengths to impede and to impair our ability to engage in these activities. Unfortunately, so many platforms. Gab is pretty good. I'm finding we're picking up a decent amount of traction over there, which is really good to see. We put our show links, in the group, the news groups, for as an example, or podcast groups, and people are they're seeing what we're actually posting, and they're engaging what we have to offer. So whereas other platforms, it's a lot more work. So Minds has got a lot going on for it. It could be better, though, as is typically the case, unfortunately. But yeah, Kamloops, that's a major issue. I'm not sure how far is he prepared to go this piece of work, Castro, who needs to be neutralized in one form or another, taken
Well,
out. Although if he is removed from office through whatever means, that I mean, who is there to replace him but the deputy prime minister? And she's a
Chrystia
total.
Freeland. She's even
She's a
worse than
total.
she is.
Yeah,
And
she's a
he is.
total plutocrat psychophant. You know, she's big into this whole Pluto. She wrote a book on the plutocrats. So she's what's her? Is it Christina
Chrystia
Freeland?
Freeland. Yeah.
Christia. It's Christia.
Yeah, Chrystia Freeland. Yeah.
Christia Freeland. Oh my God, she's awful.
Oh, yeah,
Mr.
she's-
Speaker, Mr. Speaker. The Canadians, by and large, you know, she just such a whiny voice. It's like, oh God, and it's the same old rhetoric too. You listen to Trudeau with the way that he never answers any questions, of course, in Parliament. He just stands up and says what he wants to. With what are these catchphrases that he used? Canadians we're asking them to step up, and they have stepped up. You know, we're putting all of our resources into the problem, using all the tools at our disposal, you know, and all that bullshit that you just endlessly just like, shut the fuck up. Like, we want concrete results, starting with him possibly, you know, it's a pair of concrete sneakers or what have you. But anyways.
Hey, well, I will say one, and you're going to love this. One of the ministers today came out and says, we will be exhuming, we will be putting money aside for the protection of freedom of religion. I can't remember Mancini or whatever. This is the same guy who threatened the Western premiers with arrest.
Yeah, the same guy who was originally the Minister of Culture and Heritage. We've talked about this ding dong.
Yeah, so he
what's his friggin' it's not Eve, is it? It's Thibault, is it?
Thibault, Stefan Thibault, yeah.
Stefan Thibault.
No, actually, no, sorry. It was the guy who said he was going to nationalize the resources minister. So anyway,
but isn't that Stefan Thibault? Didn't they do a cabinet shuffle? And then
Stefan Thibault was the energy minister. Yeah. And my response was, "Oh, great!" So, and I keep in mind, I'm an atheist, and it's like, you know, and my response is, "Oh, so they're actually going to do something to protect." And I mean, keep in mind, like the Catholic Church took and engaged in some pretty deplorable acts over the years. And again, I'm just going to bring up something here that not a lot of people know about. The individual who first came out, who came out with the Spanish Inquisition. The Spanish Inquisition started literally within a couple of years of Columbus discovering, quote unquote, the New World. And Torquemada and the Pope who authorized Torquemada, who is considered the worst pope of all time. Torquemada, the guy who initiated the Spanish Inquisition, was the individual who was responsible for most of the Spanish priests that came over to Mexico and Central America in the first few years of colonization of Central America, which explains the cultural radicalization of what happened which explains individuals like Hernan Cortez and whatever, and some of the stuff that happened in Central America, in Mexico, to the Indians there. It was basically a version of what was happening in Spain and Catholic Europe to anybody who wasn't Catholic under Torquemada. Interesting little fact that I also discovered this week. Anyway, Grierson, you're up.
And now I will reveal to the world that I have penetrated the Trudeau government and also the NDP and what was before the Conservatives. Now, the Conservatives have gotten away, at least I think they shall, they think they are away, but I will tell them what to do, and they will do it. And after all, the Canadian people are under the impression that they have the choice to elect when the people I want have already been selected. Sorry, but that's basically the way that I see it. I don't think I'm that far off. Like, we're going now basically into thought crime. Like, I mean, how's the meme go about 1984? It's basically, it was to be a lesson book, not an instruction manual, but that's where we're headed if things don't change. Now, I honestly don't know what to think anymore in terms of what happened with Kamloops. Not to say it didn't happen, but not to say that it did. There's a lot of unknowns. I'm under the impression from what has been written of the time period is that the Native people, they kind of had a choice, but they didn't have a choice. And
The residential schools you talking about with choices
Yep.
with the natives? Well, yeah, I mean the area that I came from, up just northwest of Prince George, I hear some real horror stories. It's total, just widespread, massive abuse, and just the most heinous, terrible things you could possibly imagine. Now, did we hear any stories of children being killed or murdered? No, but beaten, abused, probably, psychologically, physically, and also probably sexually. And this is not only the Catholic Church, but I think was it the Anglicans
Anglican, and there were two Protestants. The Anglican I know for sure, and I don't know if it was the Presbyterian or I think it might have been the United, but I could be wrong. Lutheran, I don't remember.
Then again, but I mean, as bad as things United, were, but yeah, exactly. United, but that was then. This is now. It's a long time since this all happened. So sure, there are people who would like to, if they could, cash in, and because of their plight or where they find themselves, how they were born to a particular family at a particular time and have been subject to a whole multitude of just influences from all directions that in partly feeling, even though they haven't been necessarily, they've got no skin in that game, as it were, directly, that who wouldn't want to maybe, if they could cash in and pick up a few extra bucks. But then again, as always, I bring in this picture, this your life is finished, right? You move on. There's a new generation, and then another generation. The life cycle continues, and reincarnation is a very possible. It's a very. I mean, it's been talked about, and I think even today, the majority of the world's population does subscribe to reincarnation. But once you bring that into the picture, things like reparations become very, very complicated, obviously. So, and then if you were someone back in the day who was you were torturing someone or being abusive back in the day, maybe because of karmic justice, that your next life will not be, you'll be subject to similar abuse, and just the cycle continues, unfortunately, until people stop.
Well, now that you gave me some time to think to gather my thoughts here as well. Don't be surprised if the only person that's able to legally talk about this is going to be Trudeau when he's campaigning.
Exactly. That's right, yeah.
So, pardon me for seeing an opportunist little prick who is about as useful as tits on a bull. And that's on a good day. But if Poilievre or whoever else is the opposition of the Conservatives, I can guarantee you Trudeau will be climbing up to the top of the CN Tower, screaming bloody fucking murder. But it's okay for him to talk about it. So this is going to be manipulation on.
No, anyone can talk about it, though. You see, but just here's the thing: not just Trudeau, but anyone.
No. You can't. No, you can't
But
question
hear me. No, but hear me out. It's really simple. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. You can't question the official narrative. You can talk about it so long as you parrot Trudeau's line, the official narrative.
Yeah.
And then if you question it or have some rogue, something to the contrary, then you'll be attacked, and it's ad hominem insults, and they'll try to brand people in the most extreme sort of way, and that's to be expected. That's just the way that politics go.
And coming up for the new fashion style in Ottawa with the new federal election will be jackboots, Nazi style, which is basically where things are starting to become headed. I was chatting with a friend last night. She's from Vietnam, and she said that she's got cousins that are looking outside of the country to move from. Canada seems to be a preferred destination, but whatever, neither here nor there. And I said to her, within 20 years, the way things are going right now, you'd be better off to stay in Vietnam, because it's going to be, at least things haven't changed where you're going to look back and just kind of go, well, shit, I remember back in the good old days before we fucking elected Trudeau. But this shit would have still happened anyway. If it wasn't, it would be somebody else.
The grass is always greener, isn't it?
Well, my feeling in Ottawa is that the grass is pretty much brown, no matter which side of the alley you're looking at it from. But to each their own. Anyway, that's all that I have to say on this matter. I'm expecting this to be fully and thoroughly exploited by you-know-who, which is to be expected, but such is politics. And I'll leave it at that, Naroki. Unless, Jaffe, if you want to add anything else to it, but I'm good.
Back to Naroki.
All right, so yeah, I kind of expected that this kid residential school thing was going to go on for a bit. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know exactly how long. I mean, it's really, really very, very clear that what Trudeau is attempting to do is he's trying to muzzle the opposition as much as he can before he calls another election. And of course, we all know Jagmeet Singh's another Soros one, and Jagmeet Singh is happily and willingly going along with this. And Peter O'Toole was actively and willingly going along with this until they replaced him with Pierre Poilievre. Poilievre is not perfect, and I still got some reservations about him, but at least now there's an active thorn in Trudeau's side in Ottawa. And it's, of course, right, the attempts that Trudeau is making, and we will be covering more of this. Oh, by the way, it's 317, not 318. The attempts that Trudeau is attempting to do to try to reel in the alt media before he runs for re-election simply isn't going to work. For one, minds gab me just don't. I mean, you're not responsible for somebody on a private platform posting up a news story, right? Like, the Canadian government simply cannot charge for that, right? But they're going to try. And it's a very, again, but we won't get into that. The whole question of the Kamloops residential school, though, this is also an attempt, again, divide and conquer, an attempt to get everything, try to corral the vote. Again, though, when we get down to topic number 5, you'll see that it's probably too little too late for him now. All right, so let's get into topic number 2. All right, so this one is interesting. Not so much. Well, Disney seems to want to self-destruct really badly. So last night, I actually did a rundown. And keep in mind, I only did a rundown of the movies that Disney has released this year. I didn't go into what happened to Disney the year before. But, well, Captain Sinclair is not here at the moment. Rearson, would you like to take a gander at how much money Disney has lost in cinemas this year? Rearson?
Yeah, I already know this number actually. So far, okay. Do you know what the number is?
Oh, I know what the number is. I just want to know if what the number you have and the number I have are the same.
They're not at $1 billion, but it's 890 million that I'm aware of as per DVD Overlord.
Okay. I did a search on Box Office Mojo on all of the Disney releases. Yeah, by the way, this includes the ones that continued their run until were started in 2022 and run to 2023. The total amount of money that Disney has lost this year so far. And by the way, we haven't even got to Raiders of the Lost Ark yet.
Oh fuck! I was walking around. No, I was coming back from the dollar store today, Dollarama, and I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, Dollar Destiny kind of going. Too fucking funny. So anyway, what numbers? What is your tally?
1,249,000.
Wait, 1 million or 1 billion?
1 billion with a B. $249 million. The only movie that Disney has released this year that appears to have made a profit of more than $100 million was the recent Black was the Black Panther movie. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Guardians of the Galaxy kind of eked over the line, just barely.
Well, hey, okay, I hate saying it, but for Disney at this point, a profit's a profit.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, Guardians of the Galaxy just eked over. Like we're talking effectively. I mean, well, it made a profit, but I mean, it's effectively
it broke even.
It's more of a break even with a little bit of extra cash inside. The only one that made more than $100 million profit was Guardians of the Galaxy.
Damn.
And even that one didn't smash it out of the park. Keep in mind, the Guardians of the Galaxy movie was actually kind of fun. So anyway, to give you an idea, I also did the rundown. Hold on a second. I have to step away for a second because I have this paper somewhere else.
Okay.
Just a quick reminder that this coming Friday night. Hey, just a quick reminder. This Friday night, we're going to be holding the Open House Roundtable Canada Day special. Basically, it's an annual feature show that we put together. Both of you are invited. Hope you can make it. Help to get the word out, though, too, if you would. Possible others, including Mark Devereaux, and Yvonne, other Canucks that are familiar with what we do, or even just newbies that you might want to send our way. Definitely feel free. So, all right, Disney bombing like all hell. Guardians of the Galaxy. That first one, I think it was the first one they put together. I really actually liked that a lot. I didn't consider it overly woke or anything to that effect. It was well done. What are your thoughts, Rearson?
Feelings because of the director.
Who that was the pedophile guy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and he switched, and he jumped the gun. Complete pun intended.
James Gunn.
James Gunn jumped over now to DC, which is a fucking dumpster fire of a mess. Anyway,
isn't he notorious for having those Hollywood Twinkie pool parties?
I don't know about that, but he basically dressed up as a priest. He had two females in front of him that dressed age played, shall we say, a lot younger than they will never be. And he had something that one tweet has been burned in my mind. Something about having dirty thoughts towards young boys or something like that. Is that a bad thing, or am I going to be punished? I can't remember what it was. It's like,
I wonder what Mel Gibson or the likes of him or Tim Ballard or was it Jim Caviezel would have to say regarding James Gunn and people of his ilk, this upcoming 4-part series, series.
Well, that's Mel, and then there's the Sound of Silence, I think is Sound of Darkness.
No, Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom, thank you, yes. It is playing locally to me. It's just way the fuck up north.
July 4th.
Yeah, it is going to be here. It'll be playing going into next weekend as well. Actually, no, next weekend I do want to go see it.
It's going to be a good movie.
It's
dark, but I think there's hope.
It's dark, but it's necessary. I'm sorry, but it absolutely is.
Oh, we talked about that today with my adult class. I was just before I managed to connect with you guys. Had an early morning class here in Korea, the ELF gig, as it were, and we addressed the whole matter. It shocked the largely female audience, the housewives that they are, but they understood as well too, like the shadow. Because we talked a little bit about the Jungian shadow and the darkness, and how it has to be. You have to acknowledge its presence. Yet, if we bring light, like a sanitizing sort of light that is shone and brought toward the darkness, that there's some real positive change that can occur, obviously. And the rats and spiders and snakes and all the little rodents and parasites, they tend to want to run away as fast as they can and hide from the light. It's like the Buddha talked about, as I said today in class. There's only three things that are not long hidden from us, and that is the sun, the moon, and the truth. A very famous quote from the Buddha. The three things that cannot long be hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth.
I'll be honest, I've never heard that before, but it makes complete and total sense.
You need to study a little more, Rearson. Come on. Don't be so lazy with your spiritual practice.
There's a few things I need to readjust right now, but this is... I find excuses and other distractions, but I'll leave that.
We all do, don't we? Isn't it interesting how that works? Yes, indeed. So,
but now I did watch Guardians of the Galaxy 1, and the integration.
Was that before? Excuse me for jumping in. Just a quick question. Yeah. Was that before or after the scandal surrounding James Gunn broke, when that movie came out? It was right around the same time, wasn't it?
It was with Gunn. It was after. The movie was released, and then what things that Gunn had put on Twitter and whatnot came to light.
Shortly after.
Yep, I believe that's what it was. So,
okay, all right.
As I said, I like the movies. I saw 2, and 2 was pretty good. There was a lot of Marvel lore that was incorporated into things that I remember reading about, because there was, oh my god, Marvel released like a 13 or 14 page comic book encyclopedia of characters or organizations. And I remember there's an entity that was a planet. Eagle. That's what it is. Eagle and Eagle Prime. And that's what Chris Pratt's character is. His father is Eagle Prime, if I remember correctly. So it was like fucking shit like that you don't think of, that only a comic book geek would know. And yes, I called myself out, fine, whatever. But it was, those two were done really, really well. But again, I have no problem paying for it from a streaming service, like Pedal Plus, Disney Plus. Hold on.
Naroki, do we have you back yet or not?
Oh, I've been back for a while.
So okay, I'm back. It's been. Oh my God.
I was just typing something out here.
Let her rip, boss.
Getting. I mean, I haven't even gotten done into the financials here. Elemental is due to lose 350 at this point, over $350 million. Strange World, that also got released this year. It's not as bad as Strange World, which lost $470 million, give or take. Flash is going to lose somewhere in the neighborhood of about 200-300. It's compared to Elemental, it's not doing too badly. I saw Flash last night. It was not actually all that bad of a movie. It was a little bit formulaic. The only problem is that the DC universe is being run by James Gunn, and this is one of the issues, and it is affecting. And I mean, the moment they choose to back someone like, say, Amber Heard or Ezra Miller or whatever, I've actually done some research into this now. You're losing anywhere between $60 to $100 million off your bottom line. Maybe even more now with all the anti-wokeness taking place, right? But, the whole thing, I haven't seen Elemental. I won't be going to see Elemental. The Little Mermaid is still playing. I won't be going to see The Little Mermaid. It's just gotten so bad with Disney now that that's not even worth talking about. And anyway, like I said before, you were gone when I said this. Disney today has lost $1.25 billion. That's with a B, $1 billion on their movie projects this year. And we're not even at Indiana Jones yet.
Well, that's only in the first 6 months of 2023.
Yeah, that's only the first 6 months. Yeah, it's not even the first 6 months. Yeah, it's like
there's been a major shakeup at the top, from what I understand.
They fired rumor has it that they fired their entire diversity staff at Disney. Look at the money it's costing. Even with BlackRock underwriting a lot of this stuff, which is, I suspect,
they got money to burn.
With BlackRock underwriting all of this stuff, they got even when you start losing this much money, even BlackRock is going to go, okay, you know what?
Crank up that printing machine.
Even allowing BlackRock to underwrite you, this is going to just absolutely. Oh, hey, look at this is interesting. That individual who. This is interesting. While you guys have been discussing this, that individual who came up to me and tried to suggest that the Trudeau symbol,
What symbol?
that the Trudeau Foundation symbol is
That
linked to
it's
the pedo thing. When I
right,
tried to
right, right.
post the link, because the guy actually doubled down, right?
So you don't believe that it does.
Oh, it is. Oh, I mean,
Oh, you're saying that it's obviously very similar, but he's
oh,
saying it
it is.
isn't.
It's literally almost the exact same.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like a butterfly ass or something like that, or like a
No,
peach ass.
it's a square. It's a triangle with like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's a swirl that's designed in the in the shape of a triangle.
Isn't it similar? Put it in the Skype chat here. I take a look at it. But I thought I'd seen it before, and it's quite similar to the whole Pizzagate imagery of like Comet Pizza and
Okay,
everything that
Rearson,
the FBI had in their books as
do
far as
you have the Rearson? Do you have that photo of the Trudeau Foundation next to that? Next to the thing, because I don't actually have that symbol on me right now. But yeah, no, the guy doubled down, and so
well,
yeah, but yeah, we're kind of getting off topic here. Yeah, so both the
what does
Flash.
that matter? I mean, people, they can deny and try to double down or ignore all they want. It still doesn't change the fact that the matter that truth is truth. Fact is a fact. It's plain as day. I mean, if they want to be stupid and ignorant, that's up to them, right? So they're free to be exactly that. And why even bother wasting your time engaging these people?
Oh, well, it's not all right. Yeah, I get throwing these questions all the time. Why do you engage with these people?
Well,
All
to a
right.
certain extent, I
Well,
can
okay, too. All
understand
right.
it.
I will explain this to you. I will explain this to the crowd again because I have to continuously explain this anyway. It's not that I'm changing the minds of the individuals that I'm dealing with. It's the people who are looking at that thread, that I'm playing to the crowd. I'm
Oh,
attempting.
I see. Okay, where is this? Where is this visible or published? Where can
It's
we
it's
see
it's on
this?
my Instagram profile at the
Oh,
moment. Yeah.
Trudeau hasn't tried to shut you down yet, or is he
No, although I suspect he is. Well, I mean, he's getting desperate. But we're seriously getting
have it,
off topic here.
have it blocked? Oh,
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, yeah, no.
yeah.
The link that I posted up has been blocked. Yeah.
What with the imagery of? Wait a minute. So it's hard. We can't find the Trudeau Foundation logo anymore. They've taken it offline.
Oh well, no. Here's the situation. This individual is trying to claim that I'm an unhinged idiot because I pointed out that the Trudeau Foundation symbol and the pedo symbol listed at the FBI database are the same
Yeah.
thing, right?
Which
Um,
it kind of is
which it
strikingly
is.
similar, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is just
So
an ad
I
these are ad
this guy.
hominem attacks. You don't let these things get to you, do you?
No, I don't. Again, though, it is really important. It is incredibly important that the people in the middle see that this person looks bad or looks
Yeah.
really
Well,
stupid, especially if
uh-huh.
they choose to double down, which is what
Hmm.
this guy did. And
Uh-huh.
to nobody's surprise, the links on Twitter, on Instagram, they're blocking them. Oh,
What? Who's blocking them?
well, no, they're not. They're not being blocked. What they're being is that, yeah, holy shit, they're like literally being blocked.
You just
Like I
found this
can't.
now in real life time. What
Yeah,
you're
I'm
looking
I'm
at
doing
now.
this in real time. Yeah, like the links that link Trudeau up to Trudeau Foundation up to pedophilia. Like when I try to post them up, it's not allowing me. It's not
Create.
allowing me to actually make the links live.
Are you logged in and everything?
I'm dealing with this idiot on
Yeah.
Instagram right now. It's
I
not.
have an Instagram. I don't hardly use it. I'd like to, but I'm so spread out all over the place. It's another what is it besides the Instagram? There's Pinterest. That's the place to go apparently.
Pinterest.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
Pinterest.
Pinterest allowed radical Islams to post up stuff of death to America, but
Well,
put warnings on Christian
did they
Easter.
censor?
So
Did they
if
they censor other stuff though? What do they censor?
yeah, Pinterest
Thing?
censors a lot of the manosphere stuff. You can't post like
Uh,
if you do a search
okay.
for it on Pinterest, you won't be able to
Gentlemen, I
find.
apologize here. I do have to step in. I'm shutting down my computer, relocating it. I'll explain after Bronzilla's gone to bed. I'll be back.
Okay. So yeah, take care of business there, Daddy.
Okay,
Home
so
front. That's
the,
something.
the bottom line here is though, I mean, getting back to the original topic is once again Disney. I don't like to say I don't know what the issue is with Elemental. I mean, it looks from the outside, it looks like a Romeo and Juliet story.
Is
But
it woke?
well, I don't. Here's the thing. I don't know. It didn't. I saw Disney, and I just completely lost interest in it, which is something that is happening. Something that happened that also happened with the Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid is playing right now, and I have absolutely no desire to go see it because it's Disney.
Yeah.
Because Disney has done this so much, so often, so frequently, and they get caught. The pattern just repeats.
Well,
Repeats itself.
let me tell you
right?
so. I'll draw. Yeah, absolutely. Let me. Yeah. So they've got to take maybe time to take stock and reflect on how much further do they want to run their operation into the ground. I wish we had that kind of money to burn. Just a 1% of that budget to work with would have us. And this is what I'm talking about as an example of like net neutrality. It's just a total ridiculously lopsided bias and coverage and exposure. So, but let's draw to people's attention. Maybe something they haven't noticed or picked up on. I find to be quite interesting. Diversity, equity, inclusion. What does that spell?
Die.
No, that's DEI. That's DEI, which is Deus, like God, right? DEI, deity, right? So, but then if you just flip around the I and the E, correct, diversity. They didn't want to make it too obvious, I guess, right? It's so they program us. This is just one example how we're just endlessly programmed, and expected to just parrot back when I say no, we need to be more autonomous, hands-on, and say, wait a minute, this is die. This flip it around. It's you. This is what you're really trying to do, along with the God end of things, of course, too. It's really kind of sneaky and interesting, very symbolic, because they constantly do this with the occultic, the coding, the branding, the symbols, and so forth. Symbols you've just been talking about. For those with eyes to see, ears to hear. There you go. You may be an atheist, but you know what? And I'm more Buddhistic and kind of influenced by Eastern philosophy ultimately than anything else. That's done the most for me, having my eyes opened, as it were, to the larger picture. But I'm not adverse to reading the Bible. Not too big on the Quran, but even that I'm curious in learning a little more, because as the old expression goes, you should study your enemies closely just to know like the sort of chicanery that they get up to. And Islam is a good one for that, of course, with the all the jihadi agenda and Hijra, so on and so forth. But anyways, so DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. You flip the E and I around, it's diversity, inclusion, and equity. Die, correct. So, and the old expression by Nietzsche, of course, right? God is dead. So, and what do we have to replace it now? He talked about this great chasm or emptiness, a void, needing to fill it. Well, here comes science. Science is the new God. Trust the science. But just leaving that aside for the moment, it is quite something. Disney, That's 3 letters actually.
Well,
Out
so
of
it's
the,
not
the
just
word
Disney, it's
too.
Warner Brothers as well. Because I mean,
Yeah, sure.
they chose to back up. I mean, James Gunn and Warner Brothers
Oh my God,
have
that's the
a
thing. They should have, if they had any integrity whatsoever, they would have turfed him a long time ago. And there's
I
another.
mean, yeah, they
There's a lot
and
of
James Gunn
Hollywood.
chose to back, even though Ezra Miller had a huge amount of baggage. They chose to they chose to back him. And by the way, Ezra Miller has been caught recently again assaulting another woman
He's not
with a
now Ezra
chair.
Miller.
Yeah,
As Ezra Miller, you'd not think this. It sounds like an Anglo-Saxon or Germanic name, but I found time and again Miller turns out to be a Jewish, believe it or not. So it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever, given the culture and context, Hollywood, if it turned an
well, I mean,
Ezra.
there
There's
is.
another
I mean,
nice.
you won't get any argument from me about the fact that there's a lot of Jews in Hollywood.
Way too many, and that's the thing is if they maybe if there was
But
more
there's
equity with bringing in the goy Gentile opportunity. I think a few of them can act and perform and direct and produce. That there would be a more there would be more popularity, not only
well, I
more
mean,
but
okay, well,
also.
there's a history. The reason why why the movie industry moved out to Hollywood and didn't stay in New York, is because there were individuals running the film industry, including the mob in New York, that they basically decided that they wanted the film industry there to be WASP, basically,
Oh,
and they
you're
told
saying
anybody
it?
there was anybody who wasn't white Anglo-Saxon Protestant was like literally harassed or
Okay,
threatened right out of
all
New
right,
York, which is
sure.
why they went
I
to
mean,
L.A.
yeah, you're saying though when you're talking mafia, you're saying that there's no Jewish mafia?
There are Jews in the mafia, but that's not an exclusive. But the mafia is specifically in New York City is
Yeah.
primarily was back in the 20s was
Okay.
pretty much exclusively by the
Okay.
Sicilian
Okay.
Italians.
Well, then, yeah, blame
They
the
they had
Italians. Blame the yes.
they had some
Thomas
people.
Edison too.
Oh yeah, Thomas Edison had a huge part in why a certain faction of filmmakers and whatnot moved to L.A. to get away from it all. So I
He was
mean,
involved in some major psyops, Edison, with the I think not maybe World War One, but definitely World War Two with the film production that he offered. Actually, he put together. Had to meet out Steve. He put together with a providing a sort of, and I don't know the exact context other than it was total disinformation psyop where propaganda, they say the first casualty in any war is truth, of course, and he was all over that, and Edison really working his magic there and working to program the masses and the proles or what have you, how do you refer the dumbed down, the useless dumbed down eaters that we are, and then really hoodwink us in a big way. So I'll have to look into that, revisit that, but maybe some of our listeners know what I'm going on about here. I can't really deliver in a precise manner, unfortunately, but it is something that's out there and worth looking into that a lot of people don't know much about Edison's role in that whole disinformation World War II context of things.
oh
So,
yeah, well, I mean, like I
but
say, the whole thing. The bottom line here is, again, you want an example of get woke, go broke. Well, you're
mhm.
seeing it, right? Just an absolute, just an absolute collapsing. I don't
But
know what the issue is with Elemental,
right,
because I will be straight up with you. I I didn't I didn't really pay that much attention to Elemental. The moment I found out it was
hmm
a Disney
yeah.
release,
But
I
the
just stopped
sure,
right
sure,
there.
yeah. But and I know you're a huge film aficionado. You love film. I mean that was those are your roots. You're trained in film and you pursued a career for quite a few years. And I'm sure you'd like to become not just from the commentary standpoint, but a more active, hands-on insider in some capacity, I would assume. But as the way things are, here's the question for you: when is this going to stop? When is the money machine just printing more money? And here you go, is your budget with millions and billions of dollars. When's it going to stop?
They're going to run it right into the ground. Or one of two things is going to happen. They are literally, it's going to collapse from the inside. It's just going to be completely overrun by an alternative to Hollywood, probably somewhere on the Pacific Rim.
China. How much of a stake does China?
Hong Kong's got a huge film industry right now. I will give you one primary example. One of the best sci-fi movies that I've seen in the past few years was The Moving Earth. And that was a Chinese production.
You ever see Kung Fu Hustle?
I've heard of it, never seen it.
Oh my God!
Seeing. Oh, I mean, like for instance, another one.
It's hilarious, dark comedy, hilarious.
That was shot in Korea. Monster, right? That was
well, that was a few years ago now, wasn't it?
That was a couple years ago, but yeah, it won the award for best film, right?
Yeah,
for best movie, right?
I don't know. Well, I never big whoop did he do? I could really care less. I did not see it. Like, let's hear about it a little bit, like synopsis overview.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, we kind of need to get.
Well, just 2 minutes briefly.
All right. Well, what ended up happening is there's this poor family, and they got this job. They got this job looking after this richer family, and it took care of all their economic woes, and then they started noticing that certain things were going wrong in the house.
Yeah.
Among them being food was disappearing from the fridge, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they started doing an investigation. What they found out, and this is actually a little bit more common than a lot of people think. Turns out that there was a hidden space, and it was actually a significant space because this was a big house, that there were other people living underneath, and they were stealing food and whatnot and going out when the couple was on vacation. What ends up happening is that the father, it blows up, and the owner of the house ends up getting killed, and the lead character of the movie, the guy you see in the picture of the movie Monster, gets accused of it. But nobody knows about the crawl space except the family. So he's living, at the end of the movie, the dad's living in the crawl space, and the son is just basically looking for the opportunity to get in and spring his dad, and that's how the movie ends. There's a whole bunch of other stuff.
It sounds interesting then. I take back what I said. It sounds, I would watch it.
There's a reason why it won the Oscar for Best Movie. It's actually, there's a whole bunch of other nuance involved. But yeah,
I'll talk to my wife, see if we can watch it together. So
yeah, the whole issue here is getting back to the Hollywood thing, and we really do got to get moving here.
I got 15 minutes.
So yeah, the whole issue here is, I mean, like, Disney has lost $1.25 billion, and we're not even that halfway through the year, and we haven't even got Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is yet to be released, and that one's also going to tank spectacularly.
Oh no! I'm sorry to hear that. I would love to have seen it be a great success. Although I will say Harrison Ford as an actor, great. As a person and his politics, he's not a fan.
He's absolutely not the worst out there, but I mean, he's he's typical Hollywood stuff. So
he's a big pothead apparently too, which is okay. I like he smokes a lot of weed. I never knew that. I heard that. I was like, he's a big pothead.
Anyway, let's get on to it. But yeah, Get Woke, Go Broke. Elemental wasn't as bad as Strange World. I haven't seen it. I might not get the chance to see it either because I'm probably maybe not tomorrow. I'm not going to get into. I will let Bruce know about my personal work details. Another company came in, offered me a different gig, which pays considerably more.
Good. Is it
And
security as well, or
it's
something a little different?
yeah, it is security related. It is tied into the fires. But it pays on paper anyway. What I was told, it pays about 50% more than what I took on the other job. So I've been kind of like not calling the other company that just hired me to let them know that I'm available, because I want to know what this other company's got before I say yes, right?
So tied into the fires as in what? Keeping an eye out, a watch over potential
Well, I don't
arsonists.
want. This is a public
People out there
recording, so
lighting fires, starting huge forest fires,
this
playing
is
with matches.
this is a public recording, so I really don't want to get into too
I
many
see. Okay,
details.
okay. I'm
Doxing.
being trying to be a little bit facetious here, but that it's just too much arson taking place. Whereas Trudeau just conveniently brushing it aside, well, it must be man-made, or it's climate change, not man-made, because we know that
Yeah.
that it's climate engineering over the past 100 years at least, as
Okay.
far
All
as
right. Yeah. We do got to get on to the next topic here. All right. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but it's like
Go ahead, man. Go
we're
ahead. Got
going
like
on and
12
on and on and
minutes.
on and on and
Yeah,
on
yeah,
about
no, no.
this one
Trying to
topic,
keep my
and it's
comments
like,
short. I want to hear about Indiana Jones.
well, we're done with that. Well,
What did Harrison Ford,
When
just
Indiana
briefly, just
Jones comes
what?
on, when the new Indiana Jones movie comes out and it tanks, I will definitely be covering it. So
Okay, what did Harrison Ford pick up that award for recently?
I can't remember.
It was some big, maybe it was a
It was
lifetime achievement.
it was probably at the Cannes Film Festival where he came by for the
Yes,
premiere,
yes.
and
What? Oh
hold on.
yeah,
Yeah, that was
that's right.
probably it. Yeah.
That's
I mean,
right.
well, I
He's
mean,
all.
Harrison Ford does deserve a lifetime award. I mean, he's got a pretty significant body of work.
Oh sure,
There's
as an actor, I think
absolutely
I
there's
love him.
no
He's great.
there's no arguing about that. Can we get on with the next topic, please?
Okay, let's do it.
Sorry, man. It's like we've been going on and on and on and on and on
10 minutes. 10 minutes.
All right, so the next topic. Oh, and this one is just extra special. So Joseph, Robert Kennedy Jr. went on Joe Rogan, and
Bad man. Bad man.
Robert Kennedy Jr. I got some. Well, I mean, I'm going to put him somewhere between screaming leftist and Tulsi Gabbard. I think he would probably qualify as just a straight up liberal and not a leftist.
He's more of a centrist.
Yeah,
He's going to seal the border. He'll seal the border.
Oh, he will do. He will. I mean, he's one of the Democrats that has. But I gotta also point out that he also quite happily and willingly went along with all of the Trudeau impeachment votes. So yeah, before we cut this guy
I don't know.
too much slack, yeah, he completely went along with all of the Trudeau. Donald Trump impeachment votes. Sorry, not Trudeau. Trump impeachment votes.
He does
He
change his
fully
mind on
supported.
occasion, though. Well, he does change his mind on it. He is big enough to admit his occasional faults, which is something that you'd never hear Trump doing.
Well, Trump's got a Herculean-sized ego. Like I say, I'm not completely sold on Trump.
No, of course
but
not.
yeah, of course, and he's also like, I mean, he supported all of the MP. He went along with the new Green Deal. Like, he's gone along with a lot of this insane Democrat stuff, which is why I'm not completely sold on him. His appearance on Rogan, he's trying to make himself appear like he's maybe more of a centrist.
Right.
Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Unfortunately, man, just like Bernie Sanders, right? Bernie Sanders could have taken the high road a couple of times on the impeachment attempts that took place in the Senate, and he could have voluntarily just abstained from the vote or changed the vote. But no, he, just like Sanders, he went along with all of the insane leftist stuff, which doesn't sell him on me. But what he has been very critical of was the vaccination issue. So he was on Rogan and he was talking about the vaccination issue. And of course, this individual from who lives in Texas, who has greatly lined his pockets by being a champion of the vaccination push that took place. And by the way, his personal fortune, I saw one graph that said it was estimated to be around $35 million now, which is significantly more than what happened that he had before the before the COVID situation started. So yeah, Hotez decided to insert himself, which happened. Here's the really weird part. And it's like, oh well, Joe Rogan's not a scientist. Well, no, Joe Rogan's not a scientist. He's a media guy. I'm not a scientist either. I'm a media guy, right?
Hotez is a chicken shit. How about
Oh
that?
yeah, yeah. Well, I'd like to get my points finished here. So Hotez inserted himself in. Robert Kennedy Jr., who's not a scientist, challenged him to a debate. Rogan started a, I believe it was a Give Send Go or a charity, and said $2.5 million to the charity of your choice if you debate a politician in your area of expertise. Hotez still said no. And of course, he immediately went, oh, well, I'm not going to sell. And you were just talking about this just a few minutes ago there, Jaffe, about worship science. I'm not going to sully the name of science by debating with somebody who isn't a scientist on this issue. And he made excuse after excuse after excuse. At one point, somebody from the media actually spoke to him in his front yard, shook hands with him. It was a polite exchange. Hotez, like literally less than an hour later, goes online and reports this as, oh well, this media organization harassed and threatened me. And of course, it's sort of like, yeah, well, Peter, right? Like they already posted the interaction between the two of you, and it's quite clearly not that. Now, as I've been going through looking at some of the photos on Twitter and specifically online about him, Peter Hotez has been blocking anybody with a high follower count on Twitter that's been going after him. He's been ignoring everybody else, which means, of course, that his ego, right? He will block the people that with heavy counts, and he will ignore the ones that are small because they're the little people. Of course, there's also the individuals, who are actually backing Hotez and saying, oh, well, he shouldn't be debating a scientist. Well, I mean, okay, well, if his data and his knowledge is so vast and so particular, then he wouldn't have an issue. He should be able to take Joe Kennedy on, who's not even a scientist, by the way.
You mean Robert
Kennedy. Sorry, Robert Kennedy. Take on Robert Kennedy in a debate and should be able to handle him quite easily then. So why doesn't he? If he can win he can win in a walk, why doesn't he? Oh, well, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no. And of course, in a vain attempt to make himself look heroic, he went to all of his connections in the media, and then the mainstream media published all of these stories to make Hotez look like he was the victim and a target of harassment and whatever. And it was like, again, he's getting fried on this because the internet is forever, and of course Twitter is no longer running block for people like Peter Hotez. And
YouTube is.
YouTube, it definitely is. Oh, speaking of, well, this is going to be for next week, and I won't get into it now because we don't want to get off down too fast. We want to get this topic done before you leave. The mainstream media began running all of these stories where they were trying to make, and it was like, again, it got pointed out on his feed that, you know what, like, hate to break it to you, Peter, but the whole mainstream media can say whatever the hell it wants. First of all, Elon Musk is not going, the Twitter is not going to, like, when these mainstream publications get ratioed into oblivion for backing you up, right? Elon Musk is not going to run block for you. Like, he's not going to do it. Twitter's not gonna-
CNN will, and they're doing it. I'm just looking at an article right now. Jake frickin' butt tapper refusing to host a debate between even to host RFK Jr. to discuss any number of issues, but dangerous vaccine views. Ooh, dangerous. There's a. Did you hear Anderson Cooper? Do you know how much of his annual $12 million salary? Do you know where that only $2 million comes from CNN? Do you know where the other $10 million apparently comes from? Mockingbird.
Pfizer.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. So can we not say conflict of interest? I think we can, but can the big Mockingbird corporate media say it? Definitely
no, they
not.
can't. Well, I mean, here's the thing. Rogan offered to moderate the debate. And here's the thing, right? Like Rogan would moderate. Like he wouldn't take sides. We all know he wouldn't take sides.
Of course.
But it's because it's Rogan. Oh, well, no, you can't have Rogan. Rogan's not a scientist. Well, first of all, Rogan's not a scientist, but I mean, we're talking a debate here. We're talking about moderation. We're not talking about science, right? Like those two would be debating science. And again,
let the public just let the public decide. That's the whole point, for Christ's sakes. Well, it's up to us to decide.
It's exactly. And of course, Hotez is just treating everybody again. One of those academic elitists who just assumes that everybody who doesn't have a degree is right.
He has lost by default. He loses by default. As I said from the top, I'm sorry to interrupt. I do have to go. The chicken shit, and he loses by default. It's okay. Sorry, he did it himself.
Yeah, he did it to himself.
Not you, but him.
Yeah.
Hotez.
So well, St. Clair, I'll give you the last few minutes here because you got to get going, and then I'll let Rearson take this topic out.
Okay, thank you for having me the opportunity to join you once again here. I do have to go, obviously. It's been a pleasure, even just a brief, approximate 90-minute exchange or so that we've had. And all of this does have an impact on myself, one of the participants. I'm sure the people that listen as well, just to kind of mull over, reflect upon, consider, to weigh and assess. And if you agree with what we're saying, then we'd like to hear from you. If you don't agree, send your hate mail or a better way of doing things, of course, as always, is this constructive criticism is typically most appreciated in the best way, rather than coming across as a total unhinged lunatic. So but as far as contacting Naroki, I think that can be easily done. The social media links that he has made available wherever you find this show and recording posted. On top of that, though, quite simply, we have this upcoming Canada Day. It's an annual affair. Typically, we like to do it each and every year, just to kind of a state of the nation, reflect upon Canada as a whole, the good, the bad, everything in between, and where we've come from up until now, and obviously where we're headed. So once again, both of you gentlemen are invited. If you can or can't make it, whatever the case may be, we'd still like you to at least spread the word a little bit and potentially help bring on board any number of at least semi-opinionated Canucks. If not opinionated, then people who are not overly adverse to engaging in a conversation where we can work on covering the issues of the day and having a good time doing it, obviously. So WPRPN.com, the website, and of course Pi Radio Podcast, the flagship show we have in place. Thank you once again. Merci beaucoup en français, something which I think the Métis out of Manitoba are well aware. And let's not forget I don't know why he's doing it. He's got his reasons, but Maxime Bernier, head of the PPC, running now in Manitoba. Maybe you'll address that at some point here. Naroki, not necessarily tonight, of course, but I think it's an interesting choice. And as just finally, as was mentioned from the get-go, without proportional representation, Canada and its democratic model is substandard at best. You know, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a joke, but it's highly inadequate and it's unfair, completely unfair, given the fact that all too often the majority of votes are simply either ignored or cast aside. And there's no acknowledgement whatsoever of people's wishes, unfortunately, because of the way the game is rigged. So, happy sailing, folks. We'll catch you on the flip-flop. Good night.
Okay, thank you very much. Rearson, take this topic out. Rearson. Rearson. Rearson.
Sorry about that. Just stepped away, just had the wrong time. Okay. Peter Hotez. Oh, God.
Oh, I don't want to be him when karma finally catches up to him.
No, I want to be at the fly on the wall and just kind of go, yeah, I knew that bastard was just quite like that, but didn't have any evidence to present.
Well, I mean, again, I don't want to interrupt too much here. If there's ever a Nuremberg, he is going to be. He's going to be one of the people who is going to be having to go on trial.
I want his trial to be public. That's all I'm going to say. My first question to the fucker is, let's see your bank statements. Let's see where you're getting your funding from. Who's paying you what? Now, no doubt, he'll be starting like fucking Trudeau is on like a cat on a fucking hot tin roof, because he already has. I had an email or a link to something. I can't remember which. But it was a gentleman that was politely challenging Hotez to the whole immunization is safe for kids, blah, 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 whole thing. And he wants Hotez to take, within a certain period of time, all of the booster shots that kids and toddlers get. Oh, sorry, all the immunization shots that I think up to a 2-year-old will get. Yeah, it's amazing. He's not committed to it. Now, the cynical side the cynical me that you know all too well, it's like, yeah, the fucker's guilty as all fucking hell. And I won't deny that. That is my honest opinion. The man is quite happy to take the cash as long as he doesn't have to actually prove anything. He's happy to run off at the mouth. Which sadly is really not all that surprising to me. So, my opinion of the gentleman, and I'm going to use that term very, very loosely, as loose as Mia Khalifa's legs. But anyway, we'll leave that one alone. Or any porn star for that matter. Until the man until he is actually transparent in what he has done, I don't want to say this is a court trial by public opinion, but if you're not going to be open about this whole thing, and, well, just like a certain someone that we both don't associate ourselves with anymore, how many times has this man doubled, tripled, or quadrupled down?
Oh, he did it to the point where it was it was very, very clear that he was being knowingly, there's only two reasons why there's only a couple of reasons why he would be doing it. And the first one that comes to mind almost immediately is because it's in his financial best interest to not do it. But the other part is that he's able to practice mental and emotional compartmentalization to the point where he's able to do what it is that he's doing without and to do it and not lose a moment's sleep over it, and like and to sit there and go, yeah, you know, the vaccines are pretty good because he like legit. I mean, you know, because it's I'm if I were to go and look at some of the individuals that that probably work around
someone like him,
I am almost willing to bet that one of the things that you would probably hear about him is that I don't fucking trust this guy as far as I could throw him. Like, he will toss you under the bus. He will do whatever it is that he can do to get ahead. And if it means stepping over, it's not about people to him. Like, I mean, the fact that he was willing to lie to lie, to know and be told that he's lying, and to be actually physically shown on his feed that he's lying, you know, and to just continue to do it, even though it was clearly shown to everybody on his Twitter feed that he was lying, and then they have to resort to blocking large content creators because they were all coming after him for his lying. And it's, you know, it was...
I'm sorry. That to me is someone who is complicit. And that's the nicest word I can use. I would love to know...
Complicit is the right word. I mean, when they actually get around to doing a Nuremberg, and they're like, at the rate it's going, like, there is going to have to be some type of based upon some of the stuff that's going on. There is like, some people are simply, for instance, and I'm kind of getting off topic here. The guy who runs Wikipedia, and his knowing and complete complicitness in banning and allowing
censorship and
to move certain words around. Same thing with the individuals on not just Urban Dictionary, but at the CDC, who knowingly and willingly changed definitions like herd immunity and whatever to keep a certain, not just to keep a certain narrative going, but to actually promote vaccination culture. Changing the one that really got to me was the actual changing of the term herd immunity to make it, to justify the vaccination. And they did it knowingly, and they did it without they just basically went in and did it. Oh, and you know, certain media organizations, right, who knowingly and willingly went along with all of this. You know, like, it just goes on and on, and that's just the media, and it's going to be it's not going to end well for them. And it's like, and they just keep going, and it's like, it's really obvious that it's not going well for them, but they just keep doing it.
Yes. Now, the thing that I see it as is that they're caught in a trap, and you've got two options. Ride it out until hopefully it works out in your favor, or you admit defeat and all hell is going to break loose. Now, I could be wrong. But I see that that's where Hotez is at this point. Is that I can only speculate as to how many millions that he has been bought off for. I'm not saying that he's a multi-millionaire. I don't think he's been paid off enough to say that he might be worth in excess of, say, $30 million. That's just the number that came to the top of my head. I was thinking 100 million. That's like, no. No, he's probably been paid off quite a bit to do and to say the shit that he has. And that's fine. That's his business. Not mine, not yours.
Well, I mean, his value is around 35 million. It's not in the hundreds of millions, but it is still quite a bit.
Okay, so my intuition kicked in when I came up with 30 million just off the top of my head. Okay, fine. So he has a lifestyle that he's not willing to lose. He has, just like Fauci, he has a public persona that he has cultivated, and up until recently, when the World Health Organization basically downplayed COVID, where it doesn't really exist anymore, but there's something coming down. There's something coming up in about 6 more months. Get ready. Hint, hint. We're telling you what we're going to be doing here.
Which, by the way, is their attempt to delay karma falling down on them. That's not how karma really works, but
No.
That's how they believe it works. But continue.
Well, they have to tell you what they're doing because of their diabolical plans. If they don't, karma's going to come down hard like a fucking 10 tons of ball peen hammers falling on you. Anyway, I am completely derailed my train of thought here. Anyway, people like Hotez are happy to be bought and paid for. They're happy to be. You want me to say what? Well, I'm not sure about this. Well, here, we'll give you this much more money. Oh, shit, I'll be happy to say this, too. Yeah, no problem. Put your hand up my ass, and I'll have your hand. Sorry, put your whole arm. Extend yourself up through my ass, through my spine, and tell me what to say, and I'll be happy to say it.
Well, I mean, look at the guy. I mean, he looks... I hate to say it, but he reminds me of a certain ex-individual that we both used to be friends with in Banff. Initials PW.
Mm-hmm. Now, the difference between PW and Hotez is that PW has a sense of integrity and a sense of honor.
He does?
He does. Now, he'll say things that we're going to disagree with, and he'll double down as he has in the past, and that's fine. But he has a sense of honor and integrity. He's misguided. I think that's probably about the best way to say it.
Extremely misguided.
He's misguided, but he's not corrupt. I can't say that Hotez isn't, but my gut is telling me that that man is bought and paid for, and he's happy to have been bought and paid for. I would love to know what the man was worth pre-COVID. What he's worth now.
Oh, it's considerable. Less than $1 million, and now he's like a multi-millionaire.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, but the common sense court of public opinion would say that the man is bought off. Given his behavior, my opinion is that he is. And I'm going to leave it at that.
No, you're not that far off the mark with him.
Mm-hmm.
Again, right when the Nuremberg trials finally start to happen for some of these individuals, he is going to be on that list. He's not going to be one of the major figures, but it's there's going to be a significant number of people from CNN that are going to be on that list. There's going to be Vijaya Gadi's probably going to be on that list. Jack Dorsey's probably going to be on this. Yep.
No,
Mark
I agree.
Zuckerberg is going to be on that list. There's going to be a large number of people, and it's reaching the point now where they are literally going to have to start having trials because they pissed off so many. I mean, for instance, when we get to topic number 5,
Yeah.
that is a prime. It was like Hotez got caught in a lie. He tried to bullshit his way out of it. And in the process of bullshitting his way out of it, he painted himself into an even deeper corner. And again, right? You know, he's the scientist. So he's the one who's knowledgeable, much more knowledgeable than Robert Kennedy Jr. about this topic. So on paper, if he engaged in a debate with Robert Kennedy Jr., he should win, hands down. But he won't do it. And the excuses that he's making only make him look weak and worse. And you can run, and this is the thing I pointed out about Gamergate last week. I pointed out about Gamergate. What Gamergate did and why why the media has never gotten over Gamergate is that the Gamergate removed the ability. It's the first time that the mainstream media lost control of the narrative. And it's happening, and it gets worse every time. It happens again and again and again and again. And at each time, they, it's far right propaganda, and this doesn't have to be far right propaganda. When most of what I do is basically just sit here at my desk and point, right? And of course, I don't go around posting this stuff up at news sites, obviously. And I fully expect that before the next election that I may be facing fines and or jail time for what I'm doing, thanks to Trudeau.
That's both of us, man, because if you go down, I may not be too far behind you.
The whole thing is just and then he goes to the mainstream media and they help salve it over, and Hotez goes, well, you see, the mainstream, all of these media publications say I'm right, and sort of like, and of course Hotez does this on Twitter, and then it's sort of like he gets reminded rather bluntly too, I should point out, that just because the mainstream media is not the beast that it used to be, and it is losing credibility. And well, here's the thing, right? Lie after lie after lie after lie after misrepresentation, and it's like, and yeah, and they just keep going, and it's only for instance, yeah, they got BlackRock and Vanguard and all, they've got those places backing them up, which is enabling them to run much further with this than they normally would have. First of all, the mainstream media's complete ignoring of BlackRock is not preventing information from BlackRock to getting out. So people are starting to figure out what's going on, and as the mainstream media loses its ability to control the narrative, and Rumble, Odyssey, and BitChute are being careful enough with how they conduct their financial operations to make sure that they don't end up going the way of Vice News went, or the way Black Rifle Coffee went, or some of these other companies that did tap into those financial resources and suddenly went woke as hell. That was the thing that killed off Vice, right? Vice just went woke as hell as opposed to staying mid-range and slowly building. They decided they wanted to keep expanding, and they tried to turn themselves into a big operation, and it just tanked on them.
Okay, I got to look into that because I think I've read something that might actually have proven one of my expected prediction. I'll get back to you on Vice.
Well, I mean, I saw something. I recently resubscribed to him. He described fully what happened with Vice. Vice got greedy. They wanted to get big fast. They wanted to be a news publication at the same level as CNN, NBC, CBS, all also. So they went out and got a lot of corporate money, specifically from Disney and some other places, probably organizations tied in with BlackRock, etc. And of course,
Okay.
right.
Okay. I found something here. I don't know how reliable this is. Daily Mail. .co.uk, Soros and Fortress Investment in firm in talks to buy Vice. So don't be surprised. That was about a month and a half ago. So these things take time.
Well, Soros already had a serious investment in Vice. That's been pointed out. Again, Kira TV, that's the name of it that I saw it on. He did something on Vice. But again, right?
Anyway, yeah.
Hotez tried to use the mainstream media to say, "Oh, well, I'm right. Look at all these publications the same." And so like, yeah, Peter, you know what? Like the mainstream media is in an even worse situation than you're in. And it's getting worse for them. And then there are people on his Twitter feed saying, like, Peter, just shut
The
up.
fuck up. Yep.
Go silent. Stop tweeting about this. You're only making yourself look worse. But what does he do? When you're in a hole, stop digging. No, he can't stop digging.
I'm going down to China, buddy. I'm going to fight China. That's where he's going.
I'm hard pressed to think of an individual. I mean, not even Anita. I don't even think Anita, over a short, like Anita Sarkeesian dug herself a bigger hole, but I don't. But she did it over months. Peter Hotez like managed to do himself in less than like his credibility is just, he absolutely destroyed his credibility in like less than 2 weeks, right?
Great, perfect.
You know, I mean, he might, the mainstream, like the people that he sucks up to might be willing to salve his ego and tell him that he's still credible and that he's still legitimate and whatever. But it's sort of like, you know, if he makes a public appearance from now on, right, he's gonna get heckled. He's gonna get challenged. He's gonna have to face this wherever he goes now, and all because he just simply could not. Shut up.
He can't shut the fuck up.
He would not shut the fuck up. And it's like he was even being told, like, Peter, shut up. There are people on Twitter telling him, just like, shut up. You're only making this worse. Nope, can't do it. Has to be right. Has to have people tell him that he's right. He has to. He not only has to be right, but he has to have his ego salved and have people tell him that he's right, even though he's not. And he had people telling him he was right, and that only made it worse for him because when he did that, he got shot down. Surprise, surprise. Anyway, let's get on with the next topic because the next one is kind of interesting as well. Okay. It's going to actually be a little bit on the short side because of everything else that was going on in the media this week. This one kind of like came and went really quickly, but it's a manosphere topic. Therefore, it's like. Because I'm in the manosphere, I have to cover it.
Okay.
Andrew Tate was finally charged. Finally charged. And I'm not saying that as a good thing. They waited they waited the appropriate time. They didn't want to do it on the last day because that would have made them look desperate. They didn't want to do it too soon because if they did it too soon, right? Without proper preparation and whatever, it would have been. So they waited until and this got pointed out by a couple. They waited until about a week before they would have had to drop the whole thing before they charged him. Gonna go out on a limb here. They are going to try to make the date of the trial. They're going to try to drag the date for the actual trial out as long as humanly possible. That's my first declaration. You'll know you're starting to get close to it because you'll start seeing all of the usual suspects start going into hit pieces around Tate a couple of weeks before and of course they won't. These hit pieces will come out before the actual date of the trial will be announced because there's clearly some people being paid off in the Romanian government to leak this information. You are going to see some rather suspicious leaks. You're going to see some rather suspicious leaks come out, probably via the usual suspects. You're also going to see attempts again, right? They're not going to be able to do this, but they're going to try. It wouldn't surprise me if they tried to use they try to apply the rape shield law in the United States on this topic, even though one of the reasons why Tate went to Romania, they twisted this around, they twisted this around, say, oh well, Tate went to Romania because the laws for rape there are a lot more permissive. No, he went there because the woman, and I remember this because I listened to a podcast about this. A woman tried to lay a false accusation on Tate when he was still living in Britain, and the woman hid. It got dismissed.
We talked about that.
Yeah, it got dismissed, but Tate still couldn't name the woman because of the rape shield law, and he is sort of like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go to a country where I, at least from a legal perspective, have a chance to fight back. Some of the stuff that you saw that occurred around Tate, for instance, the two women that accused him, like, had Tate been in Britain or North America when this happened, the video leaks of the two women happily and joyfully leaving Tate's mansion unescorted, that information would have never been allowed to be released. The fact that these women left Romania as quickly as humanly possible and they were so traumatically.
And they went to the south of France, if I remember.
Yeah, correctly. They went to the Riviera. They were so traumatized from that they didn't go immediately run home to their families. They decided to hang out in the Riviera for a couple of weeks. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
And of course, the fact that one of the women that accused him also just conveniently happened to also have a record in the past of accusing somebody who had committed suicide because of a false accusation. That type of information would have never been released. It wouldn't have been allowed to have been released because there was the raid. That's the reason why he went to Romania. So they're doing everything they can. They're charging him because they had to charge him. You sound like you want to say something really badly.
Well, everything that we saw being led up to his initial public harassment, and I think that's really about the best way to sum that one up. Everything, all of the fucking tactics that we saw with the public leading up to the public harassment, they're gonna fucking do it again. They're gonna be a little more subtle about it, but by and large, it's might be a bit different. But now they've been able to finally figure out how they can try to nail him, and I think that's exactly what it is.
Well, I mean, here's the issue and this is something that ties in specifically with Tate. Rollo Tomasi and Fresh and Fit and Donovan Sharp and the Manosphere content creators, the other and Kevin Samuels while he was still alive, and a lot of the other big Manosphere content creators, not so much Sandman, but I mean all of the big men, a lot of them. This is part of the reason why I think I got targeted so early is because I'm a Manosphere content creator, but I will also talk and comment on social issues, right? Tate was willing to comment on political and social issues. Rollo Tomasi, I even heard him recently admit, like he said, you have heard me. You'll notice that I had never mentioned anything about Mulvaney because it's not my area of expertise. I don't go near it. I have an opinion, but I don't specifically enter the area of politics. And he said, but Hammerhand, who is a MGTOW, Hammerhand has gone out on the record, and there's been some talk in the MGTOW sphere. And if you watch Redacted on YouTube, or hopefully they've got something on BitChute and Odyssey and Rumble, maybe Rumble about Redacted. One of the things that's going on about Redacted, and this is why the 2024 election is so absolutely critical, and why Trump is going to have to do something distinctly different than what he did the first time he was in office if he gets reelected, or even DeSantis, is that the unofficial word that's going out around town around right now is that the United States government, they're realizing that the internal pressures are getting too big, and they're going to try and start a war with either China or Russia in order to distract the population. Here's the situation. And this is something
really
that Tate doesn't talk about very much, but it does get talked about a lot about in MGTOW, which is the biggest faction in the manosphere. And I'm of the same opinion that Hammerhand is, right? And keep in mind, I'm too old to be drafted anyway. But it's like, no, I'm not going to go fight for the state after what they've done. You know, I'm not going to pick up a gun. I'm not going to put on a sword. Yeah, I'm going to have friends in my.
Tate has been that vocal.
Well, not Tate himself, but Tate has been pretty outspoken on political issues.
Okay, so
Tate was the one I remember specifically. This is the first time I actually listened to Tate in any degree. One of the things that Tate talked about in regards to transgender and kids is sort of like, well, I don't have anything against transgenders, but if you choose to be gay or transgender, you're not going to be allowed to reproduce. And because and so you're not going to be able to have kids, right? You are not, because you cannot have kids yourself, does not allow you access to someone else's kids. He said that publicly.
Okay, that's probably what had got him into so much hot water.
Well, I mean, he said a number of things like that. I've listened to him a little more. I've never been a like I say, I'm not a hardcore. I listen to Rollo Tomasi more than I listen to Andrew Tate. Because Rollo Tomasi, when you listen to Rollo Tomasi in The Rational Male, he's pretty Rollo Tomasi is encyclopedic when it comes to men's issues in the manosphere, right? Whereas Tate is more opinionated and overblown. He's maybe not as well researched as Rollo Tomasi, and he's much more of a hard sell as opposed to Rollo Tomasi.
Where Tate shoots from the hip, shall we say?
Yeah, Tate shoots from the hip. Rollo Tomasi is more methodical. But I mean, yeah, the bottom line is that and Hammerhand, who's arguably the biggest MGTOW content creator out there right now, is specifically said, right? If you're going to be in the manosphere, specifically if you're going to go MGTOW, and they gear up for war, which it looks like they're going to, right? You need before you even consider putting on a uniform and going to fight for them, is like, why do you want to fight for these people?
Yeah.
Like, and he said, like, I am not in any form or fashion going to assist the state if they choose to go to war against China and Russia. And that is that there's a huge segment of the male population. And by the way, no matter what the feminists say, the feminists are suddenly going to become very pro-male the moment a war breaks out. Right? They're going to immediately pivot to shaming men for not signing up for them. Sort of like, and they cannot have guys in the manosphere going, why do you want to fight for these people? Right? And, Tate does not specifically get into it, but I mean, they are going to have the manosphere is going to be.
No, but what Tate, if things progress to what the deep state wants, and for you people that are trying to dox you're okay. I'm going to say what baby needs to be said here. my opinion is that they're proactively going after Tate because not necessarily him, but if he inspires other people to say the same, to kind of fall in line with where he is, or if he's able to influence other YouTubers to basically say, no, fuck this shit, I'm out. They want to bite this, they want to nip this in the bud, whatever the saying is, before it becomes a problem. So preemptively, they're going after Tate now because of what they want to do, which is to fall in line, and that they want less targets for the for the feminazis to go after as well. They think they really want, my opinion is that they want people to jump in the line of fire for the sake of. Now, you and I, we're too old for this shit because we're both in our 50s now. So I know I'm not draftable unless they're desperate. And even if they do get me in, even if they do grab me in there, I'm going to be one of those pain in the asses that's going to be questioning everything. No, Staff Sergeant, you're a fucking idiot, and this is why.
Oh well, I mean, they can say. I mean, I remember this when I was 18. When I was at the expo, they had a video on. They had the thing about you can teach an 18-year-old to fight and to love it, but you could teach a 40-year-old how to fight in a war. But there's absolutely no way you're gonna. I mean,
there's no guarantee.
You're not going to get me to actually love going to war. Like, I mean, I'm a big, keep in mind, I'm a big Warhammer fan. If you listen to some of the Warhammer 40K music, it is really raw military. Get out there and like that music really fires me up.
It's inspirational.
Yeah. It's inspirational, but it, by no means at the same time. When I remind myself too. It's sort of like regardless of the music and how it fires me up, man, I am not going to sign up and not. If I'm forced to sign up, I'll go in with the Coast Guard or something like that. But I am absolutely not going to I'll go take a position where I'm saving lives, but I am not going to fight. I'm not going to.
You're not going
to. This is what a lot of guys are. This is the situation that this is the reason why they have to really go after the Manosphere in the next couple of years, because the Manosphere is growing at an absolutely exponential rate in North America, and it's going to be, and this was way ahead of schedule, it's going to be almost the same size as by the time 2027 rolls around. It's going to have a membership probably somewhere between 5 and 10 million active members of the Manosphere. That's active. That doesn't include all of the adjuncts. So basically at that point, the Manosphere will have reached the level of will have damn near reached the same level of influence with men that feminism has with women, right? I
can't say that it's not going to tip over because the more that I'm listening to Terrence Popp and Aaron Cleary and Sandman specifically, I would love to go back in time with. The
guy you really got to listen to is Stardust, otherwise known as the Thinking Ape. I think you'd like his delivery style.
Well, I'm happy as a big and shit to listen to Terrence Popp and Blake, because those guys are just they call it as they see it. Not to say that
Terrence Popp is funny as fuck. Yeah. I'm not a big Tate fan. But Stardust, Rollo Tomasi, Spetsnaz when he was around was also a personal favorite of mine. Again, right, to each his own. Yeah. But I mean, again, right, the whole situation with the Manosphere, and I guess, by the way, you're welcome. If your wife is looking for someone to blame for introducing you to the Manosphere, you can just say, well, go talk to Sam. By the way, make sure you're passing all this information on to your son, too, because your son is going to need to know this.
Honestly, God, man, I'm trying. I really am, but he doesn't want to listen. He's happy.
Well, Well, no, he might not want to listen, but yeah, just have it on in the background, right?
I'm-
Even though he's not listening, because I mean he's at that age where they're not going to listen too much to you anyway. You know,
fuck.
even when they're
I know.
not even when they're not listening, they're still listening, right?
Yeah.
You know, don't force them to listen to it, but have it on in the background.
Shit.
They are listening. They are
Okay.
absorbing this.
Okay. That reminds me. My manager, female, is even has said things to me that simply put, you've got other things to focus on. Stay from the XXs because they're you have to achieve goals. Like you have to go after, you need goals and you have to achieve them. So she has some degree of awareness in terms of male development.
Oh, there's women out there that definitely have a grasp on what's going on with men right now. Again, right?
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be involved. I mean, again, right? Even if you don't think your son is listening, he's listening, right? Just pick your battles with him. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly it. But what I would like to do is to introduce him to my manager for a 5-minute sit down and just basically it's like, okay, I'm talking to you about girls. And just
Too
to
bad
hear
your
it from,
brother couldn't have had a conversation with him. That would have woken him up.
God, fuck. I missed him. But with him, I don't know what happened to him in a previous life or lives, but shit went bad. Either, and I'm sure he's been on both sides of the manipulation side of it all, where he either manipulated someone as a man or a woman, if we're going to go to the whole reincarnation thing again here, and vice versa. So at this point right now, he's on the receiving end. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but anyway, we'll leave that alone.
Well,
Anyway,
I mean, if he has questions about girls and how to deal with them, just tell him. Go online, look up Rollo Tomasi, the rational male. Right. That's probably a good starting point with him. Right.
Well,
and just he will figure it out on his own. Right. But as
okay.
long as the seeds are planted.
Well, apparently there was one female last year that gave him a hard time because he was too short. So now we've noticed, I can't say the explosive growth in his actual height, but he is starting to actually grow now. His shoe size is starting to rival mine. So he's getting there, and he's going to be, and I know he's going to be taller than I will, which is fine. But we'll see. Anyway, we're getting off topic here. Let's move on to the next one.
So again, right, this whole situation, and here's the ironic part, and this is something I've pointed out as well. Taking out Tate is not going to. First of all, if you throw him in jail, if you throw him in jail, you're going to make a martyr out of him. If you kill him, you're going to make a martyr out of him.
Yeah.
If you try to completely smother him, there are a few hundred other guys in the manosphere who are quite willing to take up the slack. I mean, I seriously didn't think that there was going to be somebody that was going to come along that was going to be bigger than Kevin Samuels as quickly as it happened, but it happened. So again, Samuels died. Tate took up the slack. You remove Tate, someone else is going to step up into that gap because that gap needs to be filled. It's going to get filled either by an individual or it's going to get filled up collectively by a group of individuals. It's sort of like no matter unless they actually start to deal with it, and they don't, because they need warm bodies to go fight this potential war that they're brewing up, which I think is absolutely insane. There is going to be some plus side to it. A lot of the manufacturing is going to return to North America, which is something that I think is going to be very badly needed.
I think a lot of manufacturing is going to go back to their home countries, because if you can't produce your goods for your people to buy, like the basic necessities, you're fucked.
Well, I mean, they're not going to be able to import a lot of the stuff that they need. So they're going to have to bring a lot of the manufacturing back to the Rust Belt, right?
Yeah.
But we're kind of getting off topic on that issue. The bottom line is that I mean there is quite clear, and the only other thing I'm going to say, and I don't know whether Tate actually listens to my podcast, but I mean I think there's something that needs to be pointed out with Tate. They are going to have to make sure that the judge in this case is not a judge that is compromised. That is absolute essential.
That's a tall order.
It can be
That-
done.
It
Gonna have to really fight for it. They're gonna have to pull every single legal move that they can pull in the remaining course to make sure they don't get a judge that's compromised. That's gonna be the big part. Well, look what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse. If they'd had an activist judge there, you know, Rittenhouse is in jail. You know, they got a judge in there that wasn't a diehard activist. They tried to put pressure on him. They didn't succeed. But I mean, yeah, they have to get a judge in there that's not going to be an activist or whatever.
Good luck.
You know, again, right? It's ultimately what happens to Tate is not really going to matter because if they throw him in jail or they kill him, they turn him into a martyr, and that's the. And if you think the manosphere, and by the way, my modest prediction of somewhere between 6 and 8 million people involved in the manosphere by 2027, that number will absolutely skyrocket. They will get a very brief celebration. Yeah, we took down Tate, but it will have.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll make a murder out of him.
Okay, move on to the next topic. I gotta pee like a freaking racehorse. I'll be back.
All right.
And here at the Red Pill Nation Hangout, we have no fucking standards. I'll be back.
So yes, Rearson has to fucking pee. So let's get on with the next topic. Didn't expect to have to go on about Tate for as long as I did here, but I did, and I make no apologies about it. Okay, the next topic, and this is a very interesting. Well, I think it was maybe a bit overdue, to be quite honest with you. What happened in the NHL specifically? I don't know why it didn't happen with basketball or with the NBA, but it specifically happened. Probably, and I mean, again, I'm putting supposition in here in terms of the actual costs for development of a professional hockey player as opposed to a professional basketball player. A professional hockey player. The equipment, and this is if you're going to have, and if you have multiple kids, you can do hand-me-down for the most part. But if you have just one kid, you have to buy, from the time the kid is, say, 5 or 6, you have to buy a new set of hockey equipment at a minimum of every 2 years, maybe even every single year. Hockey equipment is expensive. Skates run you between $200 and $300. Yeah, you can get used skates, and they do have equipment co-ops and whatever to help defray the costs of
to offset it. Yeah,
to offset it. But I mean, here's the bottom line: when you get into where, for instance, Connor McDavid, who is currently the top dog in the NHL and the best hockey player in the world, comes from a solid upper-class middle family. Eric Lindros comes from, I would say, almost a lower upper mid-class. Like, both of his parents were financially independent and were making in excess of 6 figures. Wayne Gretzky comes from kind of like a more middle-class background. Gordie Howe, I think. I mean, Gordie Howe did not come from a poor dirt farmer family. Like his family,
I see Gordie Howe being middle class.
Gordie Howe came from I won't say poor farmer family, but I mean they were like they weren't maybe not prosperous, but they were poor either. Mario Lemieux came from again, right? If you look at the best hockey programs in Canada, like the best hockey program for producing NHL talent in Alberta is the St. Albert hockey system. St. Albert is a suburb north of Edmonton. St. Albert is also the richest neighborhood,
Okay, yeah.
in Alberta. Same thing with Calgary. The best place for developing hockey. And by the way, Connor Bedard is a prospect out of North Vancouver. I believe he's from. Well, I mean, he might be from the Valley, but I believe he is a product of the North Shore hockey system, the North Shore Winter Club. That particular, the North Shore, maybe not West Vancouver, but West Vancouver, which by the way is the richest neighborhood in Canada.
Yeah.
But the North Vancouver is definitely not that far behind. Most of the best hockey players that come out of Toronto usually don't come out of Toronto itself, or if they do come out of Toronto, they come out of Toronto via the suburbs of Toronto and their hockey systems. So I'm not going to say, well, they're just attracting a better class of people.
I could see Newmarket being one of them. I think Newmarket is big enough for the OHL, but I could be wrong. No. Anyway.
So there are, I got to point out, there are exceptions. Theo Fleury did not come from a particularly wealthy background, for instance.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Fleury's métier at best, isn't he?
Yeah, Fleury did not come from a wealthy family, but again, he had talent, right?
Yeah.
Like it's basically the hockey system in Canada as opposed to the United States. The hockey system in Canada is basically gladiator school. So the people in Canada are always on the lookout for potential talent and developing it. But bottom line is that the NHL players come or usually end up becoming products of middle class, upper middle class, sometimes even like upper class environments, like for instance in the case of Eric Lindros, for instance. As a result, they usually have access to better education, etc. So as opposed to basketball, when really all you need is basketball and a decent pair of sneakers and a court somewhere.
Yeah.
Like basketball is relatively cheap. Education is not, because again, it's an inner city thing. Education is not as emphasized in those areas.
No,
so
it's not.
Again, so you're talking about the average NHL player, even the ones that come. Again, Russia's got a system similar to the United States where they actually they find these players and they put them into specialized programs. Again, Canada is really the only country, and it's probably the reason why it's the best country in the world for hockey, is because Canada's hockey development system is basically gladiator school, right?
So basically, you work your way up through the ranks, and if you make it, you make it. If you don't, you don't. Pretty much, right?
Yeah, basically it's gladiator school. Whereas, for instance, the U.S. or Russia or whatever, or most of the other countries in the world, yeah, they develop a lot of upper end talent, but if you're not good enough to get into one of those elite programs, then the chances of you getting noticed drop off a cliff.
Yeah.
That's the reason why you see a lot of upper end, like not so much in North America, but with the Europeans, you see a lot of European players playing at the upper end. What you don't, when you get down to the midsections, like the numbers start to drop off. It's because, again, because it's North America. But I'm kind of getting what I'm getting at here is that hockey players come from familial environments that are stabler, that are less, as in general, less insane. I mean, you do have exceptions like, say, Graham James and what he was doing, but I mean, for the most part, you know,
Yeah.
they the players that get, that's another reason why NHL players are drafted at 18, 19. And NBA players don't get drafted in the early 20s because, I mean, in general, because of the environments that the NHL, that hockey players developed in, it allows for the process of maturity to happen faster, right? Because there's a structured environment there. That structured environment, in a lot of cases, will involve, for instance, if they were lucky enough to basically play major, junior, or university close to home, that means with some of them that there's going to be much stronger religious convictions in players. There's going to be much stronger developed internalized value systems in players. You don't read too many stories about NHL players like going out on Andrew Kane, that guy who got picked up by the Oilers, the one who got caught faking a COVID vaccination pass when he was playing for the San Jose Sharks, who's now plays for the Oilers. You know, you don't see too many players like that. You know, even the African American NHL players that play in the NHL, you don't hear about very many of them getting into the same sorts of troubles. It's the reason why you don't see NHL players getting the same degree of trouble you see NBA players getting into.
Not as much, no.
So yeah, with a system that allows for maturity, that allows for a lot more stability, which allows them to develop their principles a lot sooner, you know, that means then that these guys, I won't say they're smarter, but they know they're a lot more self-aware of what they like and what they don't like. And if they come from a strongly religious family, right? And they got agents and whatever, it's sort of like they're aware of their civil rights, and they know that they cannot be forced to wear pride jerseys, no matter how much. And again, this is what I was talking about, the mainstream media losing its credibility. The mainstream media, if you listen to the mainstream media narrative on the NHL banning cause-based jersey, and that's what Gary Bettman said. Basically, all cause-based jerseys are out the window. That does not just include pride. It includes cancer awareness. It includes Veterans Day. It includes everybody, which was the safe approach that Gary Bettman took. Right. The bottom line here is, though, and this has been pointed out by a couple of different people, is that it was only the pride jerseys that were causing all of the blowback to the NHL. Right.
Well,
Gary just said, okay, fine. No theme-based jerseys by any team for any function. He took the safe road, but everybody knows that it was basically, it was aimed specifically at pride, and everybody knows it was aimed at pride. The mainstream media tried to say, oh, well, this cause here has been hurt because Bettman did what he did. I love this one.
Scores. Go beat off in a fucking corner.
Oh, a bunch of rich, racist white men decided that they didn't want to do that. So I had to point out to this one dude. It's sort of like, by the way, dude, the fact that you picked white men and racist men as a topic to blame on this, that in of itself is sexist and racist. Oh yeah, he got really pissed off when that.
Well,
again.
Okay, I'm going to say that when this whole thing, when the pushback started, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the NHL player that did this, he was Russian.
Yeah, he was Russian, but there was James Van Riemsdyk out of San Jose. There was the Stahl brothers. St. Louis just said, that's it. We're not. A couple of the teams just said that that's it. We're not doing anything for Pride. For Pride Month, for Pride at all.
All it takes is enough of a push, internally, and the whole thing stops.
Yep, there was probably about 5 or 6 players, and of course, the fact that the media tried to jump on these players. Here's the thing: the media tried to jump on these players. The only problem is that, and this is something that I noticed almost immediately, right? When I've seen, for instance, when I've seen polls on Twitter and whatever, and I've seen the like versus dislike ratio on when I was looking at stories on Facebook about this. Like the ratio of support for theme-based jerseys for the elimination of pride jerseys ranges somewhere between 90 and 97%, depending upon the publication. And the mainstream media just kept pushing and pushing, and they kept trying to say, oh, well, we have support. Everybody is pissed off about this. And it's like, and of course, they publish their stuff up on Twitter or on Facebook, or as soon as it gets posted up on social media, they get absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
Right? And again, right, this is what I was talking about, the mainstream. It's like, I mean, yeah, the support for this and Gary Bettman's move around the Proud jerseys is somewhere between, I'm going to say probably somewhere between 90 and 95% for this. There's the mainstream media, in particular, this should come as no surprise, CBC is screaming as loudly as they can about this issue. They're reading about it. Well, here's the thing, right? I mean, a lot of the people that they're doing this for, they don't even watch NHL games. In fact, I've seen.
Oh, please, okay.
I've seen leftists just like get about.
Okay.
Go ahead.
CBC. I mean, where do you want to start with the CBC? Besides being, Canada's communist broadcasting company, the propaganda company. Take your pick. They're a state broadcaster. I mean, people are going to be screaming to the fucking to the top of whatever towers in your city. Well, Russia Today is okay, and what about the CBC? Well, the CBC is different because it's Canadian. I know about 3 or 4 people that have that argument. I mean, fuck. The CBC cannot. I'll tie this into the NHL soon enough as well, too. But the CBC fucking lost out on a 10-year deal with the NHL because Rogers stepped up to the plate, basically said, hey, we'll give you a better deal. Let's work together. And like 80 to 90% of the CBC's revenue just fucking dropped off the planet because it was Hockey Night in Canada. Oh, fuck.
Oh, you want to know what else happened around?
I was working at Shaw. I was working at Shaw at the time when that happened, so it's something that's still I'm not going to forget for the rest of my life. But please continue.
Well, I mean, they lost the rights to the theme to Hockey Night in Canada.
Thank God. Yep. Yeah, fair enough.
Like they lost the theme. They lost some brain dead executive at CBC didn't want to re-up for the theme for Hockey Night in Canada, and they lost it.
Well, shit, I remember Neil Peart, the drummer for Rush, had done his own thing for Hockey Night in Canada when he was still alive. Now, I've got some feelings about that gentleman that are not very complimentary, but that's another story. But no, there was a competition for the new Hockey Night in Canada theme. And you might be looking it up right now. I'm not really too sure because I just heard you tap on the keyboard. But anyway, the CBC, all they need to do is just maintain the status quo, but you're asking a bunch of socialists to maintain something in a capitalist-ish system. And they can't fucking do it. Let's be honest, they just can't. So, I mean, I almost think it should almost called the CB the CPC, because that's all they could do is just fucking read from this point going forward. Oh my God, what a mess. Just absolute fucking mess. Anyway, we're getting off topic here.
Oh, well, I mean, we're not really. Again, right? Like, they're freaking out. They're attempting to make it look like there is mass protest against this issue and that the majority doesn't even approve of it, etc., etc., etc. The only issue is that every time they post up, they just get absolutely ratioed.
Destroyed, yeah.
They get ratioed into oblivion. And the reason why they get ratioed into and they get ratioed into oblivion, and they do basically, they keep pulling off what Peter Hotez pulled off, right? Right, and they just keep doubling down and doubling down and doubling down and doubling down, and it just doesn't work. And the reason why it doesn't work is because they don't have the majority support on this, but they're going to keep trying to rile up the trans community to the point where one of them, in fact, they already are starting to do stupid shit. Like, they threaten. There's unhinged transgender people that, like, for instance, they still haven't released that manifesto that shooter in Nashville has. They still haven't released that. It's going to actually take a legal court challenge to get the police to release that.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but if that isn't speaking of corruption, complicity, and fuck. Take your pick under the sun of anything no different than we were saying about Peter Hotez. For the police to hold on to that, and they're not going to release it until they absolutely fucking have to. I'm sorry, but what I've read with the most dangerous lie or conspiracy, whatever it was that Kelso gave me to listen to, it only adds to my... I said to my son, if your father, if dad becomes any more jaded, I'm going to fucking turn green. I'm not going to be like superhuman Hulk strength. I'm just going to be any more jaded with life, I'm going to become green. And it's no word of a fucking lie. Like, I'm just... Having a critical mind with intelligence is proving to be almost a detrimental trait. And I think you will agree with me on this.
Well, it's like you...
It's draining.
Oh, no, it is absolutely exhausting to have to explain this to people. And you can debunk every single one of their argument points, and they will still hold on to it. Right?
Come back at you, yeah. Just
they will like literally try to come back at you, and it's sort of like, yeah, dude. This is the reason why I stopped trying to convince, why I preach to the choir, and I don't necessarily, or to the middle, to the people who are coming in, and I don't necessarily try to go move out of my sphere. It's like, yeah, dude.
You get it.
I've had individuals
you don't get it, and you're not going to get it. Yeah.
And it's like, and I've had friends fucking turn on me because of this, and I'm like, dude, I'm through with you, right? You want to fucking turn on me because I have these opinions? Fuck off, right? I'm not going to try and wake you up, right?
Yeah.
You don't get to pretend, you don't get to be, just remember, you don't get to be my friend a year, 2 year, 5 years down the fucking line if you choose to go this route. Right? Like, you just you do this, and I've had individuals who, like, even guys on my men's team that, like, literally blocked me on Facebook, and I'm like, okay, you know what, you want to do that?
That's
Yeah,
fine.
next time I
Then do
run into you at a men's event, like this is what I'm going to tell you. It's like, yeah, I know you fucking blocked me. You didn't even have the decency
Mhm.
to actually talk to me about it.
Mhm.
So yeah, we're fucking done. Like we're done.
Yeah,
Bye.
well, again, kind of sounds like that fucking Chinese woman. The fucking bitch told me through her quote godfather, she doesn't want to talk to you anymore. Blah blah blah. I'm like, then I just hung up. Like, fuck this. I went through my emails and I sent her one, and I ripped her a fucking new one. And I was reading what I put together in that email, and I was getting goosebumps because it was just like, oh yeah, that was good. So,
She made her just like Miss 2016, and I know she's not relevant to this topic, but I
Yeah.
mean, like the more I think about what she did and the decision that I mean, again, I will sum that up in as short a manner as possible. She had a multitude of ways that she could have handled that friend request.
Mhm.
She went straight to fuck you.
well,
Oh, and she went straight to fuck you over a tatted up dude bro that she wasn't seeing, that she broke up with less than 6 months later.
well, my same manager also used to work with her, and she doesn't have anything good to say about her. And my manager can, and she can see and read people's auras. So I'm with the right person at this point in my life, at least in terms of until I said I've had enough and getting off the corporate roller coaster. Anyway, if I still have my email to her, I'm going to send it to you. But what I put in there is the basis of how I've been feeling for a while. So now that I see that and I have it, and it's going to be back in my head, I can start to let go of that woman now at this point. So it's going to be incredibly relieving. It really is. Anyway, we're getting off topic. Let's move on.
Yeah, so let's the mainstream media is just like, I kind of figured we were going to go long tonight. Yeah, the mainstream media basically just like spurred out about this, but they brought it on themselves. Bettman made the right decision, and he pretty much been confirmed that he made the right decision. Again, right. The LG first of all, the LGBTQ community, I don't think is going to be able to withstand, like, this one particular group has hijacked it, and the rumor has it that there's that the LG part of LGBTQ, which by the way makes up the overwhelming majority of it, is just getting a little bit tired of their bullshit.
Yeah, and they're sick of this shit too because they're getting lumped into this.
The LGB section is getting the LGBTQ section is getting tired of the T, and
I've been seeing this for a little while now too. They have to start fighting back on this one too, because this is their fight to lose.
Well, I mean, if they stand by, and it's actually, you're starting to see this, right? Like, you're starting to see various states now try to backdoor stuff, reversing the gains that they made on gay marriage. And they're doing this not because I mean, we're actually talking about far right religious zealots at this point, but a lot of it too is because it's got enough popularity that people want to just go fuck you to the LGBTQ and would be happy to pass this stuff just to give the middle finger to the LGBTQ, right? Just to piss them off. Right? Just like how people would do stuff when it was the right, and would do stuff just specifically to piss the to piss off the televangelists, right? To get them worked up into an absolute frothing tizzy. Now you're starting to see the same sort of thing happen in reverse, right? And it's like it's threatening to completely unspool. And here's the other difference is that this particular group does not. The Christians make up a substantially disproportionately large. They make up, the fundamentalist Christians make up of something like between 15 and 20% of the population of North America. The trans community is less than 1%. And the only reason they're able to get anything done is because, well, BlackRock, the globalists, but the other part is the fact that they're being artificially propped up by the media. Otherwise, they would have never gotten the ground that they've gotten. And again, right, they reached their peak last year. 2022 was their peak, and quote company after company after company after company. And I will finish off here, and then we'll move on to the Wagner group.
Yep.
Bud Light just does not seem to want to get the fucking message. They got caught again, and maybe they already had financial. Maybe the truck was already paid for, and they didn't have any responsibility in the use of their trucks because the contracts had already been signed. The I's had been dotted and the T's they were crossed, and they couldn't do anything about it. But Bud Light got caught sponsoring a float at the Toronto Pride Parade. This same Toronto Pride Parade had, and this is no misquote, they actually had a display where it was quite clear that the majority of a lot of the attendees there were totally in favor of sex ed for 5-year-olds. There were individuals at that parade who were butt naked and twerking in front of kids. Right? Again, right? I don't have kids, right? But I mean, it's like,
it's a good thing we
no,
don't
but
have.
they got caught doing this, and it's like, and they're like, and people are like looking at this, and there was also another part where there was a group go walking through. It says, "We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children." Caught on camera.
Okay, that was either in LA or New York, something like that. That video, and I know what you're referring to, and believe me, it pisses me off. It really does. But that was about 2 years ago, maybe 3, maybe even 10 years ago. I can't remember.
Okay, all right. So it wasn't recent. I only saw it recently. So
yeah, but still, anyway, you can hear it. It's as plain as day. But for the most part, everybody that I pissed off because of COVID, I know won't listen to me at this point. So I don't make any attempt.
Okay. Yep. So anyway, so yeah, it's getting worse and worse and worse. And again, right? They keep being told explicitly, leave our fucking kids alone, and they won't. Just like Hotez, they won't do it.
No, because they're a bunch of pedophiles. I mean, apparently. Pedophiles seem to be disproportionately represented within the homosexual community. That's not to say that every homosexual that I know wants to diddle a kid, but within that community, it's about a third of the population seems to be inclined towards that. But there are a lot of misconstrued, skewed studies on sexuality, probably from a bunch of sick fucks, that those right now are taken for as broken as they are, and the system knows that it's broken, kind of like the Duluth model. But it's all that they have to go on for their form of legitimacy, because anything else would require, one, to restudy everything. Once it's been restudied, it has to be integrated. And then once it's reintegrated, it has to be brought out into the regulatory bodies and fucking whatever else that goes along with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just more convenient to maintain the lie that people are going to see for what it is soon enough, rather than to actually, like most modern women right now, actually have accountability for what's wrong.
Yeah. So, and here's the other part too. They played the Catholic priest angle so much on
James
this.
Gunn?
Oh, no, they played the Catholic priest. Oh, what about all the Catholic priests? It's like, and finally somebody actually went out and actually ran the numbers, and it's like, no, actually, at this point, the number of people caught for sex crimes that are public sector employees vastly outnumbers the number of Catholic priests. Try again. And I guess there'd probably be as many Disney employees.
Disney employees or Pentagon employees, because there's a number of them that have been caught for having kiddie porn on the government allowed network.
Yep. So anyway, and one other thing before we move on here. I had again, right, when I posted up that post about the overwhelming number of people favoring sex ed for kids, one guy, and this is no word of a lie, this actually happened. He said, "Oh, well, that's not about sex ed for kids. That's about protecting kids from sexual predators and so on and so forth." It's sort of like, no, there's already programs in place to deal with that. This isn't about sex ed. This isn't about protecting young children from pedophiles. There's already systems in place that parents are pushing to, and of course he got really pissed off at me. And of course this is a very common thing on Twitter and Facebook. You see it a lot more on Twitter. What they'll do is they'll post up a bunch of stuff, and then they will block you to make it look like you tapped out.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me just finish this section, and then we can move on. He tapped out, and he put up a bunch of links, which of course I used one of my backup Twitter accounts to access. And one of them was of this one woman, and the link he printed was the most recent one. Was the total number of Democrats caught or transgenders caught molesting kids, total 0. But of course there was all of these Republicans, and I'm sort of like, and conservatives, and it's sort of like, oh, did you include that event that happened in Boston recently? The one where they said it was 3 cross-dressers as opposed to 3 transgenders that were holding children against their will. Did you include that in there? Of course you didn't.
You got shot down pretty quick, didn't you?
Oh, he got shot down pretty quick. But again, he posted this stuff and then blocked me to make it look like I tapped out. A very common try. Anyway, take this topic out because we got to get on to the next one.
Oh, fuck. I don't even know where to start to try to close this one out. Like, this is so extensive. It is so subversive. There are so many fucking tentacles on this. It's not funny. But then again, I think this unfortunately comes down to a certain outdated theological point of view. But they have, I thought it was 6 genders. They apparently have 8 genders. And we're going to disagree on this. But I'm going to throw it out there anyway. But apparently BlackRock, no doubt, supports 6 of those genders out of 8.
Oh, it doesn't support. Well, I mean, first of all, Pritzker. I didn't get into
Pritzker family?
One of the members of the Pritzker family is a transgender, and
we'll leave that alone.
The 11th Hour blog, which is a feminist site, which I don't go to very much, but one of these women actually covers the transgender agenda, mostly because there are the women being run out of sports because of transgenders. So she actually started following the money, and she figured this out. But yeah, there's
wow.
Yeah, she actually
Really?
figured, and again, it's a feminist site, so I don't go to it very much because I mean, it's like I can't really stand fucking feminists very much. Even when they do get stuff right, which she did get a lot of stuff right on, I don't like. I'm through trying to fucking reason with them. Right? They do everything they fucking can to try to demonize guys men trying to help other men and so on and so forth. So I can't be bothered. So yeah, that's it. I think we got to move on to the next topic here because we're down here for 3 hours.
Yeah. Okay. Wagner. The Wagner group. The Wagner group.
Okay, this one. I mean, I had a feeling we were going to run long tonight. I just did, just because of the topics we're covering. Okay, so what happened? The Wagner Group basically is the Black Rock of Russia, for lack of a better term. Same thing, ex-Russian military, still want to make money, being mercenaries, hauling around weapons, whatever. Just like with BlackRock, and there's a couple of other agencies, for instance, in the United States, there is, which, by the way, is what happened at Benghazi the second time around when they tried to storm the embassy there. There is an actual agency that will hire ex-military people to go and guard embassies in places that are considered dangerous, or even embassies that are not.
I can see it.
They hire these. There's these companies, they hire out ex-mercenaries, and that's what their job is. They're responsible for the safety of the personnel and the diplomats that are at these embassies, right? Yep. The Russians do the exact same thing. Surprise.
Yeah. Not terribly, but yeah.
I mean, again, they don't have the extensive reach that, say, BlackRock does, but they do it, right?
Yep.
So they've got access to a private army of mercenaries. Some of these individuals, of course, because Putin has much more state control than, say, Biden,
Trudeau,
U.S. or Trudeau.
Yep.
He has much more state control. Of course, he has employed the Wagner Group to probably engage in activities that the Russian military itself cannot be directly involved in.
Makes sense.
Which makes perfect sense. There are two possibilities here. The official story that's coming out of the West is that Wagner got basically sick and tired about how the war was going on in Russia, and decided that he was going to throw all of his troops on transports, and he was going to go over, and he was going to take he was going to use his army, his private army. He was going to go to Moscow, and he was going to teach Putin a lesson, potentially. That's the official story that came out of the Western media. What ended up happening is that Wagner made a lot of noise. He got troops onto transports. He started taking them to Russia, and then inexplicably they just stopped, turned around, and went back. They not only did they stop, turn around, and went back, but apparently there is not going to be any legal repercussions for Wagner for doing this. Or Wagner, basically. I'm going to use the European pronunciation. Hopefully I'm not butchering it. Here's the thing. Putin is a ruthless motherfucker. He is his political opponents, or people who end up challenging him too hard, that go at him too hard in Russia, have a habit of turning up dead, missing, or die in accidents.
So they get killeried.
Yeah, they get killeried. But somehow Wagner wasn't. Putin is just going to let him go, right? And of course, that immediately got a bunch of people, the alt media in the West, that immediately sent up a red flag. So there's really only two possibilities here with the Wagner. One, Wagner legitimately got pissed off at Putin, got all of his troops, and he has apparently a substantial private army, and he was going to take his troops to Moscow, and he was going to take over the government. And Putin worked out a deal with him and how they're going to conduct the war, and Wagner agreed to it and decided to send his troops back. That's one. Two, and this is the one I'm leaning towards, is that this was a psyop. This was a psyop designed by Putin and Wagner to flush out disloyal elements within the Russian military. Basically, the units inside the Russian armed forces that enthusiastically backed Wagner and then found out that Wagner was going to turn around and go back and kind of left these people high and dry. They've exposed multiple commanders, multiple units, multiple groups of people in Russia who were disloyal to Putin.
To begin with, yeah.
So Putin now knows who he can count on and who he can't count on, because this thing dragged out just long enough to expose them.
Yeah,
so
fair enough.
It's a psyop. And of course, along the way, Wagner probably got himself a nice paycheck from the CIA and from other various Western governments, because they all thought that this was the real deal. And they were going to support Wagner to overthrow Putin, which doesn't look like it was going to happen. And the third one is that Wagner did this in an attempt to extort Putin and the West. And once he got his cachet, he went back home. But again, right, if he had done that, then Putin probably would be going after him with everything he's got. So it is one of the three. Again, right? And this is the part where we're talking about with people who don't want to wake up, right? And I have pointed out to people the concept of mutually assured destruction and what would happen. Oh God, you should see how mad some of them get. They're like spit.
Okay, dude.
Fire breathing mad furious.
2 letters. PW. Leave it at that.
Yep. Yeah,
okay.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like, okay, dude, like here's what happens in a nuclear war. Everybody fucking dies. Sorry if you have a problem dealing with that, folks. To the haters that actually listen to my show, sorry you're having a hard time dealing with that, but yeah, sorry, truth sucks. Deal with it.
You're the weakest link. Goodbye. Anyway. Oh God. Well, I'll be honest with you. I read about this on Telegram 2 days ago. I really didn't bat an eyelash. I mean, yeah, I can speculate, and I'm inclined to believe that this was a massive psyop to find out. Well, to me, okay, I'm going to agree with you on your second one, is that this was basically a way to rat out the rats. Who's not loyal? Now, I know you don't care for Trump, but...
Well, I mean, it's not that I don't care for him. I'm just not a diehard fan of the guy, right?
Okay, fair enough. Given the options that we have right now, politically speaking, he's the only one that seems to have... He's the only one, in my eyes, that has anything that resembles anything for integrity or whatever you will call it. Anyway. Trump basically said about 20 years ago, I want to be at the top of my game. I want to lose it all, and I want to see who's with me at the end of it all. Because he knows that he'll have people that seem to be on his side, and they're going to jump ship and whatever else. So my feeling about this whole thing with Wagner, whatever, the Ride of the Valkyries. The Valkyries, there we go. That's what I'll call it. So this whole thing with the Valkyries is a way to smoke out the people that want to incite a revolution or do usurp power, however you want to phrase it. Apparently, the Wagner group, the Rats, have been rerouted. They're about 100 kilometers outside of Kiev, or whatever you want to call it. So, and when I saw this on the mainstream media about a potential uprising against Putin, I didn't care. like, I just looked at it kind of going, oh, fuck, these guys again. So in the back of my mind, I was already going against the narrative and pushing back in my own way. Like, I didn't pay it any attention. I didn't then, and I still don't now. So, I mean, a little bit earlier when I wanted to pipe in, you are fake news. And to go back to that female of mine, my version of your 2016, I remember one or two times that she looked at me and just kind of said, well, Trump said something really racist. And I just went to her and was like, okay, did you get that opinion from the mainstream media, or did you actually come to that conclusion on your own? Because I know you really can't. Looking back now, I was like, I know you can't think on your own. You're not that kind of a person. So, for me, this whole Wagner thing is, I think history will look back on something like this and will say, well, this is one of the psyops of psyops. That's my opinion. Now, for those poor fuckers that got caught in the middle of it all, if they were 100% behind overthrowing Putin, I don't feel sorry for you, because guess what? You could be thrown to the wolves. So either you can join the Ukrainians or you march forward and you die. Either way, don't be surprised that you're going to be labeled a traitor. So that's my opinion on the whole thing. It was interesting to see what was coming up in terms of mainstream media, but again, I don't subscribe to TV anymore. So what I find out what's going on is what I see on Telegram. So you want to talk about old media? Yeah, I'm right in there. And actually, I'm starting to cut back on all of the channels that I'm subscribed to that I don't read anymore, because one, I don't really have the time. Two, I don't have the inclination. Three, I'm fucking tired. Like, I'm so mentally exhausted at this point that I'm just kind of like, yeah, maybe I'll get to that, and maybe I'll get to that.
Yeah, you pick and choose your fights. Yeah, I'm the same way.
I'm fucking done.
Your son is something again, right? We'll have this conversation offline. You just drop the nuggets and he will figure it out in his way. It might not necessarily be your way, but I mean, the stuff you tell him specifically on how to avoid falling into like a false accusation trap, might end up be the thing that ends up saving his life.
Well, something
or something that basically puts you in a position where you have to like have him change schools, or in some cases where you may have to send him to Japan just to get even though he won't necessarily fit in Japan, at least he won't be dealing with it here. And yeah, it has gotten that bad for some kids in school.
Well, he's not there yet, and he's starting to grow now, so I have hope for him, but we'll talk about that later. Anyway, I think we're done with this one, man.
Yeah, we're done with this one. Thank you very much. Don't forget to send your order into Tinfoil Hats R Us. Yes, we have tinfoil hats of all sizes, shapes, and fashions. Even available for the family, but no, that's Orange Man Bad version. That's Orange Man Bad Handball, which is our other commercial sponsor. but put it away, version.
The two are working in concert with each other. Yes.
Well, if you have a bad case of TDS, I mean, we may come out with a official TDS version of Tinfoil Hats R Us. So you can go into the bathroom and use Orange Man Bad hand balm to avoid the escapes, and you don't have to worry about alien abductions while you're doing it. That's right, Orange Man Bad hand balm for the people who have serious Trump delusion syndrome. We're going to be coming out with a Stephen King version of Orange Man Bad Hand Balm, as well as Rob Reiner version You have to be bald and seriously overweight to use the Rob Reiner version.
Wow. No and no for me. And well, both of us might be pushing the envelope for being overweight, but we both have a full head of hair, so we're both fine.
Yeah. All right. So that is it for tonight. Like I said, I'm going to be, like I say, depending upon where I end up in terms of my work right now, and I will be discussing that with Rurston as soon as the show's over. I will attempt. Well, what I'll probably do is I'll get all of my back content that I haven't posted up yet and edited. I'll get all of that stuff online for everybody to look at, and I'm going to have to put a battle plan together to make sure that I have on Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, all of the other things, so that I can start building up a following there as well. Maybe even get to the point, and I got to remind you of this. If just 1% of you gave me $1 in the period of about 3 or 4 years, I'd probably $1 a month. I would probably be in a position where I wouldn't have to be working for a living, and that's my aim on this, is to be able to do this full time and not have to worry about work, not have to worry about my employer. It may get difficult for some of you. I'm just putting that out there for you. But thanks everybody for listening tonight. And yeah, Rearson, don't forget to let Dog Man out so that he can go pee on the fire hydrants, because he probably hasn't had his walk. Probably hasn't gone walkies yet.
Oh.